This conference will now be recorded.
Whole thing, since 001 falls under our purview.
Okay.
I would submit that we need to have, this needs to be a form of agreement between them, as opposed to just a one-sided arrangement. We said, we will give you money, what are you going to do? We have no commitment from that on the data right here.
Can we go to them with the consensus that the board agrees that it'd be a 50-50% split relative to the 001 and enterprise funds?
That would be acceptable. Yeah,
Not a vote, but at least a consensus at this time.
Yeah, and tell them that, yeah, that's the board's thinking. And so the thought process is that the association would not put any money in. It would come from the residents ultimately, from the funds, but the association is not planning on any funding separate.
The association.
No, they haven't made that determination.
The Pelican Reserve Community Association
Has not made a determination.
They have not made a determination last time.
No, they're obviously, you're gonna have equity in the game, whether it comes from the 001, whether it comes from fire income, wherever it comes from their dues.
Okay,
But we're looking at, we'll go halfway based on the enterprise.
not the hyper-technical, the association wouldn't have any money.
That's good. We don't know that.
Okay, well, that's what I'm asking, because district funds, you get it from the residents, I agree. You don't get it per se from the association, that's what I'm just.
I'm not that up on where the 001 account is, but I got the impression, at least talking to the other committee members, that those funds are available. They would just like to avoid having to use them if the fire impact fee could be an alternative.
Well,
That's what I'm getting.
The problem is that that money's not budgeted. We don't have that money currently today in the 001 fund to be able to use it.
I don't know that.
I know about that.
You could amend it, but again, I guess what I'm possibly hung up on.
Well, what I'm saying is the money could be there,
Yeah.
the leverage, but we don't have it. We haven't budgeted that.
Oh, no.
So,
Yeah, if
so
you're just saying
we're trying to agree in principle that the thought process is we would move ahead with the road construction, and then we would do a shared cost between the enterprise and the 001. That's what we need to agree, at least in principle.
Period, right?
Yeah, and
And how it's funded on the 001, that's
yeah,
TBD.
that would
and
be
looking
to be
at technically, that's just an internal issue in the district. Because again, if the PPCA, the Metro Association, is not going to put any money into it, which they're not, the residents are by virtue of paying their special assessment into either one of those two funds. But the association is not putting anything into it.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
That's all I'm saying. And so I guess the question is, how will we divvy up tasks? I mean, will the association pay for anything? Will they retain anybody? Or is solely the district will engage all the consultants and pay for all the costs? That's what I'm just trying to
And
get.
then allocate.
But the allocation sounds like it's only internal to the district. It has nothing to do with any monies coming from the association.
But
That's what I understand.
if these costs are close, that those studies and things aren't included in the dollar.
Right, but again, there's no commitment by the association to any of this. It's only.
Except that they're the one. Okay, I hear you. You get caught up in the legalism. They're pushing this. We're trying to help them. They're not going to fight us.
No, I understand that. And they are promoting it. The district is supportive of it. The district decided, the discussion is, in concept, the board said, we're willing to fund all of it, we the district, through monies collected from the residents in Pelican Reserve. You, Pelican Reserve Community Association, don't have to put a penny into it, but we need your cooperation and assistance.
It's the 001 account is under us.
Yeah.
We're saying the same.
Okay.
So I guess the question, if you want to communicate to them that the consensus of the board is to fund the entire up to $500,000, subject to any budget amendments that Stephen and Chris say are appropriate to this, then the board, I think, can send that message to the association, and then we need to get together with the association and WCI1R as to, okay, who's going to do what? Who's on first, who's on second? Who's going to hire? Sounds like the district's going to hire the consultants. That's fine.
When it's the DRI. That's
That's what I mean. So the district will hire the consultants.
So at least at this point, the community association can go forward to the city with the DRI that there is a budgetary plan, good word, that we have figured out a way of funding it in general, not down to the specifics.
Yeah,
Right, because here's my concern.
You always have to say.
Yeah, because it's public funds, that's why. From the standpoint, the district's perspective, you've heard this a gazillion times. The district only expend public funds for projects that are primarily public purpose, incidental private. We've established, I believe, the public benefit, the public purpose by virtue of accessing the district's facilities, infrastructure, fire, emergency. So public purpose is there, in my opinion, for the money, funds to be utilized. So the question becomes, who's going to process the DRI amendment? If the association is going to process it, look to us for reimbursement, that's a little bit different than if we process that and they're like a co-applicant in WCI. And we need to figure that one out. Then we would be advancing and paying all the money.
There's a lot of things that we filled out that we're just getting direction set because of the deadline of first quarter.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
And then.
But that plays into the deadline.
And-
Because we need to do that right
And so,
away.
just for point of clarity, where does the approval need to come from on the Pelican side?
I'm sorry, what do you want?
The approval to proceed, who,
Community Association Board will do it.
Well, I mean, it's up to the board. The board can say we're comfortable with I'll call it the opinion.
We're just looking for them to
Oh,
endorse.
The
what we're talking about doing.
PPCA,
Well,
not-
well, that's, we can move forward, regardless, but I say, what entity is it?
the voice for our community is the PPCA.
Okay,
So like
we
with the
need
communities such
tax,
as Grosvenor,
written
Rickburn.
consent that they approve this plan.
Yeah, and the question becomes, who's the actual applicant? That's something to discuss with city staff. Does it have to be the developer?
Whoever.
Or can it be the district? Because generally as a party that has property and interest in it, that's one of the things to figure out. Regardless, the district will pay the expenses to hire all the consultants.
Okay.
My concern is just moving along quickly is because now
That's
we're
right.
in the holidays.
That's where I-
After you get down to the city and there won't be a daggone person there.
January will be February, February will be March.
Well, let's just make sure we get
We're
on
already pulling
the
out.
next agenda in January, Chris. So we'll,
I think now that we can tell Phil that we have at least the consensus on this thought,
Right.
they can then do their thing.
is there anything that we can be doing in parallel to continue to move forward?
Our next step is to find out exactly what they're having and what we have to hire in the way of a planner or a surveyor, if any at all, to do the amendment.
It might just be a planner, and what I would suggest is that when the master PPCA sets up those meetings for the staff of the city, the pre-application meeting, that the district be at the table, because that way we all have the straight skinny.
Absolutely. It's been a mutually,
Yes, this is
We're-
working very
we're
well.
working very well.
Right, so we can say, okay, city, who you're comfortable with being out.
Sure.
Again, I'm not trying to throw roadblocks, just trying to help.
And Russ, and if we have no issue with Lennar other than get it done.
No, don't hurt them, no expense to it,
Yeah, don't hurt them, no expense.
and get it done.
Okay.
So I'm fine with the board wants to, not take some action.
Okay, I'll pass it on.
To let the Master Association know that the board has agreed to the concept of funding the entire project up to $500,000.
Yeah, I'd like to take, and again, to save time, is if this concept is acceptable, and so as to be able to answer residents' questions at the time we take this formally. I'd like to have Stephen do a calculation and/or we contact our financial rate consultant and tell him that if we take $67,000, throw it into the budget on the water, the irrigation, and the sanitary, what's the ramifications to the rates? I've done some calculations and it's minimal.
So we
just minimal.
We need Stevens to come up with a financing plan.
Yeah, and what,
Funding plan,
and the budget amendment necessary.
Well, if not, Steve, I don't know, well, Steve could probably do it, but we got the rate consultant already employed.
Well,
He knows our deal, he knows what a 66, he doesn't have to know what the hell it's for. Just tell him we got 67,000, it's gonna be higher, what impact does that have on the rate? There's two things you do, you either raise the cost 1,000, or you raise the, what we call base rate, or you do both. I mean, there aren't any other choices. So, but if we would be able to come to the public and say, the enterprise fund side of this is the
Here's the
impact,
impact.
I think that'll solve
All
the
right,
problem.
let's get this on the agenda in January. Come back to
Can
that
I ask you,
really quick.
just for clarification, because I'm putting a report together for feedback. If I just said the GSCDD will advise PPCA to move forward, GSCDD will cover expenses via the 001 and 002 accounts.
001 and
500,000, is
004.
that correct?
001 and 004.
You're not including Pelican at all?
I'm sorry.
You're not including Pelican at all? Pelican is 002.
Oh, I'm sorry, I told you it was, I'm sorry.
Hello.
I would really like it if.
Hello.
Thank you. Get that on the record, I'll get shot. Yeah, 002 and Enterprise.
And what I'd say is the plan has been presented.
I'm just gonna put it in there.
There was some work about
You guys
that.
talked about so
I
much.
liked it, I asked you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, thanks.
So let's move
It
forward.
is
So,
Christmas.
do we have a district engineer?
Thank you all for that.
Hey, good afternoon. This is Steven Agapi with Tetra Tech.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, we have a status update on the agenda. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at that or have any questions regarding that. And we also have one more item regarding the permit criteria manual. If you guys don't have any questions on the status update, I'd like to talk about the permit criteria manual update then.
Stephen, are there any particular tasks that that are at risk or need to be amended due to time frame? Any of those in yellow or red?
I'm sorry, I had a hard time understanding you. Are you asking if there's any projects that are getting close to like a deadline? Is that what you're saying, or maybe a budgetary?
Are there any current task authorization that are not in progress and according to timeline, just for the board for awareness?
No, I think we're okay. I mean, the Lake Bank project is, behind schedule as far as the scope is concerned, but we're not holding anything up because there's no funding available until August. So we're working on those plans, and hopefully soon after the holidays we'll have another set for Gateway's review. Other than that, everything's okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yeah.
Stephen, on the flowway weir adjustment program?
Yes, sir.
What's the latest on that? Are we still making progress or?
Yeah, we're still making progress. After our little workshop that we had with you and Ed and other Pelican crew, our staff looked into some of the comments that you brought up, and since then we've been, advancing the model to kind of predict like what issues we may run into downstream and in that last basin. One of the things that we're kind of struggling with right now is the final outfall weir into 6 Mile Slough isn't as like pretty as all the others. That one's usually underwater even in like times of drought. So we're kind of just trying to work through a game plan on either whether or not to put a adjustable weir on that one, or to just leave it alone the way it is. So that one's kind of been a little bit of a challenging a weir for us. So we're still working on that though.
Stephen, what's the elevation of the weir at Daniels at 6 Mile? That's critical, because until we know that elevation, making a decision of whether weir one needs a adjustment seems to me to be immaterial.
Yeah, I know we know that. I don't know it off the top of my head. I don't have that right in front of me.
Now, I thought that weir at Daniels, in fact, there's parallel, there's two of them. I thought that those were adjustable. Can you find out what the base is on that weir, and then to what ride does it have up and down?
Yeah, we can definitely figure that out.
Because until we have that weir we have, which is number one at 17 elevation, we're not going to do much. Certainly not reducing it. I just don't see how that's going to fly. But let's see what the numbers are.
You're good.
Stephen, can you take, we've been talking about budget. I met with Chris and Laura. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Met with Chris and Laura and went over bills and payments and time sheets and all that good gory stuff. You have a lot of tasks and assignments with dollar values. Can we do this next year or starting next month, or whatever the best thing to do is to create a form that comes in to staff, and I'd ask Tony to do the same thing, And let's see what our dollar expenditure is. Tony's a little bit different in that. His is just essentially one account, although I do believe it has about 7 subcomponents. We could look at that. But on yours, where we have estimated not to exceed, and we approach those numbers, I like that when I was working up north, 90% seemed to be a happy medium. That if I have an item that has, let's say, a $50,000 estimated not to exceed, when I get within 90% of that, or 45,000, I'm in asking for an extension of cost and time if necessary, if it's not going to be completed within that number. Can you start doing that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And in those lines too, there's some things that staff is looking at as far as some process improvements or optimization items that we're going to be pushing forward probably, I'd say about the beginning of next year. So Laura, there's some things we've talked about as far as updating the task authorization sheet, the tracking form, and so any improvements, Steve, if you just take us back to Danny, and I think we're meeting at some point, that there are some enhancements that we're looking at from an operations perspective that we're doing here within the district, but also cascading that across to our vendors. That we'll be asking not only you, our engineer, but other vendors just to update certain things. So just be on the lookout for a couple things coming across in the next couple weeks to update just a few update how we're doing it, just a couple internal administrative components. All right, and you said you had another item.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, we do have another item on here. It's the permit criteria manual. It was Go ahead.
No, it's all you. You're
breaking up.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting, and it was asked to be brought forward to the agenda. So I know Bob Geppert's been an advocate for this for, since before he was on the board, but he's gone through a lot of headache with developers in the past, just trying to make sure that the final product is perfect for the residents and ultimately, Gateway and everyone involved. So there's 2 items that we've added to the permit criteria manual. The first one is to add language to require a dedicated electrical service for aeration systems. Right now, the PCM doesn't really have that language in there for the electrical component, but aerators are being required. So this just kind of, helps add some backbone to that.
Now, this would only be applicable to new development. It's not retroactive to anybody, is it?
No, I mean, it's definitely not. I don't think it's retroactive. I mean, that's probably a Tony question. I mean, we're reviewing C5 right now, so it'd probably be good to, clarify what we can hold that developer to.
The purpose of putting it in there was to make it for future permitted.
Yeah, Tony, you have a comment?
Yeah, one other aspect on that, and depending upon the board's action today, we'll advertise notice of rule development and notice of hearing scheduled for the public hearing on amending the permit criteria manual. But as I was going through it and following up the past discussion, I think we need to address development and redevelopment and reconstruction. For example, I see a lot of times after 20 years, a commercial site may get old, stale, and they may want to knock it down, rebuild it, or some single family homes, even multi-family housing. It's just a phenomenon down here. And so I think it should apply to all new development and redevelopment. I think that needs to be clarified. Right now, it's geared solely for new development.
I was going to say, because some of these things,
I can support that.
especially number 21, use of open swales between the homes directly to the lake is prohibited. That is a difficult one to go back and do.
Well, yeah,
once it's done, it's done.
What I would suggest is that the word structures be substituted for the word homes, because we have a commercial project, they may have the same issue. So those are, once we get in, if the board authorizes that notice of rule development be advertised, can also set the hearing date. I can then advertise it far enough in advance and come back at the next January 7th meeting with other changes that we're thinking about this, including another form. Another board may want to do is, as opposed to having to amend the rule to amend the appendix, which are forms, just say we can amend the appendix by a simple resolution like we do with rates, fees, and charges. And right now, another aspect I think we need to also do is there's no separate fee in there for the attorney's review. And a lot of times my time can add up on this, and I think it's appropriate to charge every other local government I know charges for that.
Usually it's on a per lot basis or a per ERU basis.
Well, I think the fee schedule, I don't think it has a separate attorney's fees component in there.
Well,
I mean, once again, I think to make it easier in the future is just to take the fees, which are currently out of it, they're out of it, they can do by separate resolution, but like the appendix and forms, take it out of the rule. The forms can be amended by a simple resolution of the board after public notice.
And who authored this? Yeah. Steve, did you write these red lines?
No, Tyler Wainwright did.
Oh, okay, but I was just trying to find out, somebody here or you, who wrote it? The issue is that we've talked, and we're gonna talk later on, other changes to the permit criteria manual. Are we gonna try to do this in pieces? Or are we gonna put it in one big chunk and one big change?
I suggest one time, if we can get it done in time, we have to have a minimum 28 days notice to advertise the public hearing.
I'm just having a hard time, Tony, with all the things that we know need to be done.
Yeah, are the other
Change
changes,
it all.
these changes have been trying to get this done for over a year.
I think maybe what we want to do is do it in one easy and one not so easy.
Yeah, I think
And get the easy ones.
my initial thought was, let's try to get it all done. But we had some discussion in the last board meeting that some may be bigger than the breadbasket. So let's get in what we can now, and then Tony, we can make it easier for resolutions in the future to make those adjustments, and let's go ahead. and figure it out.
That's an easy amendment to this, and also the
So
idea
then we're not,
making sure it applies to redevelopment and reconstruction also, that can be part of this, that's relatively simple.
I've got notes somewhere, but about 2 years ago, we started talking about this and it fell through the cracks.
Yes.
But we
it was
had,
a high priority then, and then it fell off.
and there was a series of things that we had that we wanted. I'm gonna see if I can find those. So that next time we meet, we'll determine if they could all be done or if some are gonna be more challenging that would have to come as a phase.
Well, yeah, and we should be, keeping track of any items that come up and then doing some type of quarterly review of the manual moving forward. So, but I think the plan is, let's go ahead and plan for, we'll probably need a motion to approve this insert.
But I think that if I request a motion would be to authorize me to publish a notice of rule development. And that goes in the paper, then have to wait a day or two for subsequent action.
Yeah.
To set the public hearing, notice of the public hearing to amend the rule. And I don't know if the board wants to see the document before it goes on, or it can have it on the January 7th agenda.
A list of proposed changes.
Well, these changes, we can actually have the edited version.
Yeah.
And then at that time, we can agree on the public hearing date, or have the ad all ready for it before we can pick the public hearing date today. That way you can get the ad in the paper 28 days in advance. And so January 7th, I'd like maybe the second meeting in February, consider that as the adoption date. Set that for the public hearing, that's acceptable to the board. Okay.
Yeah.
And on January 7th, we'll come back with my other little tweaky edits, I'll call it, so the board can say, yeah, this is what's going to go out.
With what Tyler or Tetra Tech has done in red.
It will be part of it.
It's the only changes. Everything else that's in this is the original, what's in the current manual.
Correct. What I would suggest is we add to change homes to structure, applicable redevelopment, and then.
So I want to look closely at these minimum road elevations.
When we go to 20.2, I don't know if we've gotten it, it's the second section of the red. And that deals specifically with, or more specifically, with the downspout piping. The only change that I would like to suggest, and I thought I'd made it before, if I didn't, forgive me. But aeration diffusers, wherever that's mentioned, that they be placed no greater than 100 foot apart. And that the aeration system be engineered to have a turnover rate of a minimum of 1 turnover per pod per 24 hours. The reason I brought both of these up is because we, prior to this, had something in there. And then when Lennar did it for Prado Pistoia, it didn't make it. So let's be as clear as we can. I like the addition of the concrete apron around the bubble up boxes, because we are currently doing that now in Pelican. And that's a good thing to do for future communities.
So Steve, did you capture that request from Bob?
Yep, turnover rate of 1 per 24 hours and diffusers 100 foot apart, or no more than 100 foot apart, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and if you could, Stephen, if you could, you make that change, if you can send it to me in a Word format, so I can add the items that I was discussing, so that the board on January 7th will have the red line proposed revisions. And what I'm thinking is that I will prepare the ad for the public hearing of February 18th. And I can get all that ready. If I can also get the board's approval today to publish a notice of rule, effective motion and approval for that.
Okay.
Good job, Steve.
Do I have a motion?
To authorize what?
Authorize me to place a notice of rule development and also prepare the notice of the public hearing for February 18th, 2021 for amendment to permit criteria.
I so move.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
Carries 4-0.
Okay, Steve, anything else from engineering?
Oh, no, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right, guys, I'm going to sign off if that's okay with everyone.
Thanks, Steve.
Chris, district manager?
Yeah, just briefly, we're trying to put most of our management reports in the first meeting of the month, but I did put an updated schedule for the roundabout in front of each of you. They're working right now, and we'll be working next week to start doing the installation of the water line and the casing. They're also down to 1 lane straight ahead or right turn only on that intersection. So that information was distributed to all the HOAs.
That's working pretty well.
That's
Surprised me.
Yeah, I didn't have to go through Hoover, I just drove through the construction zone.
Go do there about 4:30, 4:05. 2 lanes, there's basically no warning. 2 lanes to 1, and you have to guess which lane to be in. Yeah, working out real good.
Let's move to our action item. So, do we need a motion to approve, feedback member Doug Banner?
We have Doug Zanner, and we also have Stony Brook, Chris Capello.
Have a motion to approve
I
4A and B.
4A and B.
I second vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Welcome on board.
Congratulations. Chris, C.
Sure. Yeah, Laura's going to address this.
That's me with the security. I had this item was in the board pack, and we had our meeting 2 weeks ago on the 3rd. I'm just asking to spend a little over $11,000 to move away from ADT to Imperial Fire Alarm and Security. Those are one-time costs. We'll be able to save, the second page there, I did a little breakdown. It shows it's about 38 months for us to recover the cost. The monitoring, each month it's almost $300 just in monthly savings between lower fees than what we were paying at ADT and being able to drop the Comcast lines. Because we don't need to keep the 2 lines for the fire or for the security, because they're going to put everything on cellular. So, and that's all included in the monitoring cost. So we'll save about $300 a month by switching. And because ADT is proprietary, we have to replace all the equipment, and that's why there's those costs.
Is there any value in having a redundant backup like a landline or?
There's 2 on the fire. It has 2. That's what you're required by law to have. So you have redundant. They have 2 separate.
Okay, so that's everything.
Yep.
Any inflationary deal in the monthly fee?
Nope. I just think they're-
Yeah, I think they're the CPI.
The pricing was good for a year.
Yeah, I think that's the first year of the opportunity.
So
It's actually.
They're pretty much in line with where monitoring costs are for non-ADT companies around the country. I mean, they're very much in line for what most places charge for monitoring.
Yeah, I had a couple of comments I provided them to Laura.
You and I will go over the contract if it gets approved, and
If it's
so,
approved, then Laura,
yeah, we'll work on it.
the increase unless it's just choke a horse, isn't going to influence the 38 months. It's not that big.
No, it shouldn't be that much. I mean, $240 a year is pretty standard monitoring costs. So we'd have it for the fire and for the security. And the nice thing is it'll give us some additional visibility at the pool. because they're gonna add some cameras up there, so he'll be able to see around the building a lot better than he can right now, and they're gonna relocate some of the ones that are looking at the soffit, so you don't even see anything with them.
Yeah, and again, I think if the board can approve it subject to the revisions.
Yep, Tony and I can work out the kinks and the contract part of it, I'm just asking for your approval to spend the money.
Well, you can do contract now, if you want, subject to all this. Because it's conformance with Comp Payment Act, no sales tax, those usual things.
Sure, and then it'll take the cost up a little bit without the sales tax too, so.
And there is an opportunity for increases in paragraph 1, additional conditions. Adjustment starting with the billing for the second calendar quarter of each year. They're reflecting the annual percentage increase and decrease, and we decreased it.
We didn't have this budget, we transferred it from somewhere to do this.
The board can make a necessary budget amendment. Stephen on the phone?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I was asking to take it from the carry forward because we don't have it, yeah, we don't have it budgeted in there for that, so I'd just like to increase the security alarm amount by that $11,000 and take it from the carry forward.
Motion to approve.
One second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carried unanimous. Item B,
Got Brian here with 2 projects today.
Yes, I have 2 projects. First one will be an extension of a 24 RCP pipe, which is basically comes out of Stony Brook down there. It comes underneath Gateway Boulevard, goes out to our wetland area. With tropical storm Etta, that dumped 5 inches of rain. That area is filled up in the last 30 years and the water didn't drain properly, so it backed up and flooded Gateway Boulevard on this coming in from 82. What I want to do, we did it temporary as it was, is to get the water off the road. I had Matt Tire kind of go in there and just clear it back. What I want to do is extend that pipe back farther in the wetlands, kind of create a bowl and then re-slope it the way the water's supposed to go. Unfortunately, right now, the water goes nowhere, it just hangs. It's been 30 years and it's all grown up. And to get it where even if we did ever flood, at least we had additional piping to kind of hold more of the water, because unfortunately the one pond, when you go to Stony Brook, that's the outfall and the overflow for that. And it goes right into that wetland area. Unfortunately,
Can you show on the map exactly what we're talking about? I think I know it. This 24-inch, where the pipe that comes out is that little pond, isn't it, on the east side?
Yeah, when you go through Stony Brook, that little one on the right,
Yeah,
that comes underneath and goes out in this wetland here.
yes.
Problem is our property is like this close because that is the dump.
So where does that water then ultimately go?
It's supposed to go south,
South.
but correctly right now it stops.
It just sits.
It just sits. And what happened is when this wetland flooded with that
Backed
rain, it backed up and went right up in the pipe.
Is there a restriction at the south end? Because as I recall, when I was looking at that road project, the Pelican Reserve Road project goes right through there. If you can see on the map, you see that north-south sliver of water. How does that water jump over and get into that ditch that goes parallel to Prado?
Down by our bike path,
Yeah,
there's a ditch that runs down through here,
they go, but don't let you take your finger down.
down to here.
Yeah, now, how does the water get over to the left?
Actually, it doesn't really get all the way down to here. It kind of trickles down into here. When you get through, the problem is the water's not getting that ditch line because I got trees and stuff down
So you
back in
block
here. That's blocked it. What I want to do is clear that out. After we put like a big bowl back here to catch the majority of it, whenever it flows over the bowl, it'll run back down the way it's supposed to.
Just, Matt, I'll have to go and get a permit to do that with
No, it's
South Florida.
a maintenance
all
issue,
maintenance issue.
and it's on our property.
Motion to approve.
Okay, when you say wetland, that's not a conservation area?
The wetland is to the north, so we're not
We're
actually.
not restricted in any way to do what we
No,
want.
because we're not in the wetland. We're probably within 100 yards of it. That's why I can't get in the wetland to do it. But the problem is when that wetland backs up, it comes our direction.
We can't do this.
Well, I was with Brian, we went out there and looked at it this week.
It's,
so I have,
I'll
there's a,
second your motion.
yep, I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
your next issue is, if anybody rides a bike or walks into here, I shouldn't have to mention it. Section of sidewalk from Gateway Greens all the way to Walden Lakes. I can tell you I'm getting complaints this week because we have standing water on that sidewalk, but Where it goes from asphalt to concrete, I have a oak tree that's kind of made like an on-ramp. I'm afraid we're gonna get lawsuits if somebody goes over the handlebars. I brought this up, and this is my number one priority for sidewalks. It is expensive, I'm aware of that, but it's gonna replace and take all that concrete out, make it all brand new asphalt from Gateway Greens all the way to Walden Lakes, make sure it slopes off the water so it doesn't hang in the sidewalks.
Did you say you're going to concrete?
I'm taking concrete out, asphalt all over. At 4 inches of concrete, as you're well aware of, when trees get under and buckles it, it just raises it up. And so I want to basically remove whatever concrete is there. Most of it is asphalt already. So basically just remill it, be paid back over it, slope it back. And I talked to Boness. We're going to probably get this scheduled for January, February to get started there.
Did we get bids from anybody else on this?
I haven't. I can. I know Boness is giving me a real good deal. I mean, there's only one or two other companies that could.
How many total square feet?
You're talking total 2854 square yards.
Square yards?
Yes. Asphalt. You got 15,960 total between concrete and truck to base. Root damage, I have over 1,050 square yards of it.
I have one question. What do you mean slope back? It's gonna slope towards Gateway Greens or to the road?
It'll slope toward the road. Because then it goes,
Who said it the other way?
we'll put it down in the valley gutter so that way it flows way down the storm drains where it's supposed to do it.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure, I don't know if you're aware of it, but I don't know if it's Gateway Greens entrance that way or the other way, but there are several areas where homeowners actually made a hole through the wall for their drainage.
That is the other
So I
direction.
think to come, so they drains to the sidewalk. So you may want to take a look at that.
I am aware of it because a gentleman bought a home, was doing some remodeling and was cleaning things out and it was
Yeah.
coming onto my sidewalk and I was not too happy.
I didn't even know the hole was in the wall.
Well, it's
I was right in the back.
there. That is,
One house south of Gateway Greens.
so this is not the section we're replacing, it's the
Yeah,
south
going
section.
north instead of south.
I'm going
Well,
north.
there's two areas. That's why,
I'll double check.
The wall itself, the hole in the wall.
yeah, the home, like,
But
so
there's no homes, there's no more homes. Well, yes, there are. The first, probably 200
yeah,
yards.
so
there's a
here's
couple
the wall
homes.
and here's the sidewalk. They
We
got
will-
a drainage issue, they made a hole through the wall,
Right, okay.
drains into it.
Let me double check, but I know pretty much the ones I found were on the south of the
Okay.
entrance.
That's what I was.
We will.
And this money is coming out of,
We have existing sidewalk funds of 150,000 this year, so it's
we already
coming
got
out of that. It's already allocated for it. This is probably one of four I'll eventually be bringing because we have three other sections we want to do. But with this one being the biggest and probably going to take them time.
and there's the highest liability in this.
Yeah, this is the most one.
The other three people, other than Vanessa, the other two, without a formal bid process, can you at least do a sanity check and see if they're involved?
I can get with Ajax.
No, not a big deal. It's
I
just-
mean,
Always like to have at least one or two.
sure, I can get with Ajax on one this size. It's a bigger one. I mean, I can come out and give a quote on it. But one of my biggest concern is if you don't do it in the next 3 or 4 months, you get in the rainy season, then trying to get the concrete. If you're not aware of it, you saw the bull noses are pretty much done. They've got 2 of them left to extend. It didn't go far enough like I told him, but they're pretty much done from Griffin going south.
It's really bad. It's really
It
bad.
is really bad.
It's the worst.
Oh, I completely support the project. I'd just like to get a second bid, second price without a formal bid.
I'll reach out.
Right. Have you marked the area clearly that there is a hazard?
There's yellow and red and orange.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever paint you want, Tony. I marked it more than once.
Thank you.
Red, orange, green, you know, most is right now it's fluorescent. We do the orange thing.
Just
Thank
so I'm quick, Bob, you're requesting that we at least get one more bid before we approve.
Well, we can approve it not to exceed the 91,000, but if it gets an offer of 80, then we'll go with the 80, that's all.
Then we-
Common sense.
It's already budgeted, we've got the money. It's just a
That's
matter of
what I was
picking
going to
that.
do, not to exceed it 91,000.
So do I have a motion?
Motion not,
I'll make a motion.
not to exceed the
Make a
91,000.
motion to approve the sidewalk repair with a do not exceed of 91,253,
92,000.
92,000. Have a motion in a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
There you
And
go.
it's understood, it's the discretion of staff to do it if they get whatever the better price is.
You go.
Sure enough.
And then I think we have one more.
Revised plat agreement.
I think the board already took
already
action on
took
that.
care of it.
Took that.
Yes, sir, we took care of that.
Really quick, because we're already behind schedule. Chris, one of the things we want to add to the agenda each week is the future board business. So what this insert is for is, so each week, or each board meeting, Chris can say, here's what we have on the agenda for the next board meeting. Some of it may not be fully baked out. This is, at least what we have here more. So Chris, do you have?
So these are kind of tentative, or tentative, that we can add.
I know that I asked you just to put this placeholder in, but do you have anything you want to add here, or?
Well, everything we have, of course, the agreements for soccer and flag, which for next year, the concession stand, usage charges we're going to look at, and also execute and approve the final surface water maintenance contracts. And this will kind of give you a heads up, but because you won't see the board book until 1 week before the agenda. So this is a time where if there's something else you'd like to add, it's a good time to bring it up.
So we put this as a placeholder, and what I would like to see is actual, here's the items. I mean, some of them might be coming in, so we may not have them. I don't know if we can print these out, but.
Do you want things now to make sure, or we just call in Chris?
Well, that's what I would say, that now, as we move forward, this would be a great opportunity. If you weren't pressed for time, I would say this would be a great opportunity to say, hey, Chris, we talked about this item, can I have you look at that, see when that item's coming through or whatever. So we would have more discussion today because we're running short on time. I'd say if you have anything other than those couple items, that you send a message over to Chris for consideration. Okay, supervisor comments. Bobby, I'll start with you.
None.
None. Tinkle.
And none.
I have one that I just want to tee up for maybe the next board meeting is, I think we need to look at the amount that Chris has the ability to approve. That amount today, I think is sitting
It's
at.
on my list of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Tony and I
covered
have talked
today?
about it. No, for
Okay.
next year. I wanted to bring it after the first year, but
Okay,
Tony
well,
and I
I'm just
were
gonna see it.
talking.
So that amount today sits at 10, no, yeah,
10. I'm asking for, it'd be nice if we could have 30, but.
So we want to have some discussion on increasing that. If the item is budgeted and it's on the, if it's budgeted and it's on our CIP or maintenance list, if we've approved it as an item, we just want to increase the dollar amount because there's a little bit of a, that's it, roadblock. in
Yeah, it
some
causes the
cases.
delay in getting some projects done because Chris can only approve up to 10.
And they'll bring it back, to, we'll get updates on what was spent, but, so that's the only thing that I had, is just to
Yeah, we
tee
were
the
just-
board up for conversations on that.
We would just tell you after the fact, like, oh, by the way, on this budget item of, we spent X dollars doing this, instead of having to come and ask you to spend the $20,000, we can just do it and then come back and say, this is what we spent it on. So, because you've already approved the dollars on the line item, so we're actually coming back to ask to spend the money again that you've already approved us to spend.
I just have one question. So we went from 10 to 30. Is that the average, looking at projects and seeing the delay, that the average projects that are getting delayed are around the $30,000?
I would say most of them are in the 20 to 25 range, which is why I asked for 30 just to be safe.
I mean, I think we could have some discussion.
Okay.
I mean, I would argue that if it's approved and it's a priority, I would go as high as 50, but that's just me. So I think the staff recommendation is 30. I think we could just open up for conversation, and then wherever we land is where we land.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long ago. We took it from 5 to 10.
I know, and it just seems like we
Yeah.
go through all the regular approving things and creating these lists,
I don't know.
and then we make staff come back and say, hey, can we spend $10? So, comments on your side?
And I don't know if this will be in the workshop or not, but I guess I'd like to get an update on where we are with GIS. I want to compare the district system to what I consider the standard, the Pelican standard, and see, things like the Comcast installation of gateway greens. Those as-built are going to be rolled right into it automatically, and the roundabout.
Do we have any conversation around GIS in our workshop?
Not in the
No,
workshop. We could put that on for next time.
Yeah, so can we get an update on what I'd say the update on our GIS plan?
Right. What's the path forward?
Yeah.
Where are we? Where are we
Where are
going?
we today? Where do we need to go?
And
And if there's gaps, how do we fill them?
And not to get in the weeds, Mr. Gephardt, but I don't think you'll find Hotwire or Comcast providing as-built to anybody.
they are providing the.
I'm asking for them.
All right.
Pelican has got it. That was part of the contract.
But tonight, these will be on par with those we got 25 years ago, is what I'm afraid of. But that does mention one thing, or that brings up something I want to tell you. We were waiting on that permit to go down from the church north to hit Hidden Links into Walden. They found an existing conduit inside the wall, and that whole line run that we were worried about, Brian, going across and hitting utilities because everything's up there on that side, all that job, portion of the job has been taken out. So they stayed inside the wall. That would be an as-built that if you find it, it'll still be over there on Gateway Boulevard. I don't know how.
Good find.
But we've asked for an as-built. I don't want to be chasing this again and hit one of those lines.
Well, we learned before, and that's why we had it as part of their going in contract that they provide.
Anything else, Bob?
Nope.
Okay, with that being said, I will call this regular board meeting, I will call this adjourned, and we will transition to our workshop. You guys need a couple minutes, or can we just? Yep. We'll take 5 minutes.
I have a thimble for the bladder. I always can.
Sorry. 5 minutes and we'll reconvene.
I had to do that. Yeah.
This is your.
You never said anything to
Yeah,
anybody about having that conduit. Next thing I know, they're up there digging in spots, checking the deal to make sure that
I
you
think I
go
have
through.
to give my.
Oh, you're the one that told them to go look up there, weren't you?
And then I'll give my portion of
The
the.
communications with them is impossible.
That's fine. Make sure you don't pick your late. Don't be late.
Should we be using the district's attorney to sue them if we do, or should we make this attorney?
Maybe he was the right choice.
Yeah. Hey, Deb.
I've got a question for you.
Okay.
And it was that service. Cypress Grove.
Yeah, I need that.
So you guys have one.
There's no contact. Next, I'm calling me, I'm like, why didn't you sit on the gutter? Why didn't you, because I didn't think about it, and then I extended the patio, and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
Well, there's walkways.
Is it, we haven't did it tonight.
I took some pictures. Well, we have questions. What about it?
I have a whole trail. You know, I got
But I don't know if that's enough. Well, I thought so, because they were saying there's no depressions or something. That's why I'm chairman.
It is not anywhere in our town.
That's something you can go out front and let those people out there. No, I don't want to wait. We can just look.
Yeah.
I heard that.
This girl is to the table.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But if we're gonna look at-
Potential liability part of it, and then the district you're just saying this. Well, I'm not. I mean, to us, because right now.
Not crossing lines.
Well, it just says this, 2 years in a row at our budget meeting workshops, I brought up the cost of electricity to utilities, and the only utilities I could think of is was what years this work, and all the water is business. Look at that intersection. I'm all sure.
I'll pull the plans and see if the plans
You
have.
know that they missed the sidewalk.
Yeah.
This is not what we don't have a city inspector. You know, you tell them wonderful. But they'd be great if they still put that little candy pot out there for the meetings.
Okay, I'll do that.
Well, I know that you're doing that.
We'll get the results. Okay, but every balls.
March 1st.
And.
March 1st.
Callaway was probably making that on our road. No, I don't have. All Callaway. Exactly. You know what? Drivers 3 and 5. but, all the areas are great. I did a lot
You don't
of.
have to have- when you get into it, you have to- Very good. Here's the first thing you do when you walk into town, or small things, or the mediator, whatever, they don't even hear it.
Ever Stanford, I'll set up a little time, you can go back there with us and walk through our GI.
I talked to
And open up and have them walk through.
What I want to do, I think, and I'm still mulling it over, I think I'm going to take him over to Pastor. And then he'll know what they have that he doesn't.
And the impetus is two totally different things on the systems, because ours is really made for utility specific infrastructure.
Correct.
It's not made for citizens.
Ours is made for the residents, and that'll be a decision the board's making.
And Brian's looking at on the stormwater facilities and adding that stuff to it. But right now, most all our efforts can be directed at utility.
Completely understand. That's why I came out and made the presentation to the board. They knew it was citizen direct. I thought that's what they wanted. So I haven't asked that. That's why.
Question, Chris. This workshop, is it going to be for comments from everybody or just?
The board lets you have comments.
That's okay.
And, you know, so. Again, I don't think much. If you can get those numbers, yeah, 4 years.
I know they did push that.
Yeah, just 4 years.
No, I haven't. And I typically talk to him every week, or two, and I haven't heard anything from him about a week.
Yeah, yeah. But they did give it credit to some money.
Yeah.
We'll also be X dollars.
Yeah, it was like.
Did the county? The county said that.
Well, what happened is who are.
That pavement work is, I've never seen it. If they, you know, that machine they put that has the wheels about 12 feet apart, you
Right.
run down, it's not supposed to ground, went through all the, they would be sending sparks out.
They should call that a oval mount.
The whole about.
Somewhat about.
It looks like the Jolly Green. They go north like you bring it to the golf course, and they have the county put one out there on a new road. Two lanes in, 2 lanes go through, 2 lanes coming in, and one is goes in the market, so it's all basically a freeway down the World War II. You guys, when the center, we're sitting on that, they got plenty of room. Ours is.
What that version property when it started versus this you got before.
Well, and that's ours.
Well, high school, I don't think worse than that, but a mini. I mean, there's certainly.
I went over there at your, C3, C5.
Well,
Thank God.
he said that. He thinks he knows this.
Yeah, I'll do the ranking thing in my part.
Chris, let's crowd.
Whether it comes in here, it's not 7 or 9, but when it comes to this, they all go up. All in.
That's what's funny is that water's gonna go. You.
Let's make it a big C.
Where's Tony?
Went out the door.
That'll speed up the meeting.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and start with that.
He doesn't
Okay,
have anything to do with this part anyway, so.
so we'll get, we'll open the workshop.
Okay.
Commence.
Commence. In your board books, for the agenda item that I included, I took all of the comments and all of the things that you guys had listed as your priorities for the budget year, and that's what's on those sheets there. I put them in a table, I separated them out into 9 different categories where I thought they fit. There's only one that I didn't really know where to put it. So if you could each pick your top 5. And number 1 would be the most important, and number 5 is your least important. So like pick your top 5 and rank your top.
Are you going 5 down?
5 total.
Oh.
Not 5 in each column?
Like here, if we're gonna do 5 things, these are the 5 things
Yep.
I wanna do.
Out of that whole list,
Regardless of where they fall,
doesn't matter.
all 5 can fall in one column.
Yep,
Now I'm not nearly as ready.
yep,
And
So
y'all need to mark it too.
yep.
And just, I'd say, don't even worry about going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just,
Well, I need to know where they rank so that
you want to rank them.
I want
1 through
them
5.
ranked. I want your number 1 is your most important. Number 2.
It wasn't going to buy additional slides.
Do you have an extra copy? Because I wrote all of mine.
Okay, she gave, there was one on the table.
Unless
I think
we want to mark it
Georgia
for
printed them out.
One more thing I did wrong.
Again, yeah, this was on.
Yeah.
Well, no, you know,
I'll give
it
you
isn't
mine.
bad because
Well, big sheet.
there are things in here that are very labor intensive.
Mhm.
And then there are other
This is
things
just
that
a
have
start.
high priority that have essentially nothing to do with us. Good example, that water meter issue. That's a 1, but it does not create any work for us. So I think that we should have a differentiation of things that are high priority, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that really involve us versus ones that it can be a 1 priority and it doesn't take hardly anything to do with.
Maybe like admin projects and then something.
Well, we can simplify it if we just, and I understand where you're going, it's part of the prioritization
Mhm.
process. But if we wanted to, we could go through these items and let's list them high, medium, and low. Maybe to start with.
Okay.
That way
Well,
you
no,
can,
that's fine. I'll do
at least
one,
you can
two,
stack
three,
rank yours
four,
on my
five.
high, my medium, my low. And if we come back with, well, we got 20 high, we can't do all 20 high.
Right, okay.
So-
I'm willing to do that. So rank them high,
So we're
medium,
gonna- discuss
each
the list,
item, high, medium,
High,
and
medium,
low,
and low.
for every item on there.
Every item on your high, medium, low.
For you personally, your priorities, at high, medium, or low.
Again, keep the traditional.
Yeah, put your names on them because I need to track who had what. So,
Well, just put our name on the first page.
Yeah, it can't be anything secret under 401.
yep. My sheet has for each person, how they ranked it.
You want my name on each page or just?
Yes.
Top cover?
If it's stapled together, I only need it on one
No, they're
page.
not stapled.
Yeah, then you could just put it, he forgot
On
it
every
on
page.
all.
And she's so good at it, she can now do your signature.
She's a doctor. So every square has an H in it.
Yep, every square should have an H, an M, or an L. For high, medium, or low priority. And then I'll collect those and compile them and I'll have it for the next
HTML
meeting.
squares.
Hmm?
It's a new game, HTML squares.
Yeah.
We put 2 H's on watching the construction project.
You can if you want, but I'm only gonna count 1.
Mr. Tinkle, I knew you'd like that record drawing of the roundabout with the survey marks on it.
What's the difference between sidewalk replacement continue and sidewalk replacement areas?
I just listed everything that everybody put. I guess you could just rank them the
I think
same.
those-
I didn't lump
those-
anything
I think they're
together.
the same thing.
Yeah, I took each comment and put it in there. I didn't try to consolidate the comments or the priorities that you listed, so there may be duplicates. If you think they're the same, just rank them the same, and then they'll show up in the same place. We'll have to get Mr. Guys from him then.
Same thing with the PB access road. It's in one spot and then it's in there again.
I figure once we do the ranking, that'll give me an opportunity to consolidate the priorities as well.
Make sure.
There should be 4 pages, I think.
So,
You want them all?
Yeah. Thank you.
A whole lot easier when you keep them 1 to 5 in each column.
That's what I thought.
And I would probably leave them broken out the way they were because I didn't want to make any assumptions when I was putting the priorities in. If one person stated it one way and one person stated it a different way, you may have been talking about two different things. So I didn't want to assume that it was the same thing, which is why I left all the comments as they were given.
MHL.
Done?
Were we limited to what's on the sheet, or could we have added something?
Right now, you're limited to what's on the sheet.
but
Well, I was surprised at everything that I had when we had the meeting a couple of weeks ago, but I realized I'd done a handout after I saw it. I was like, how did they remember those 14 items?
I made Georgia go back and listen to the recording and she put them all, she wrote them all down for me.
Okay, you can take this.
Alright, thank you. So I actually need to leave in like 15 minutes. So I just want to go over, it's not in there. Did you pull it up off our drive or do you have the other sheet?
the staff priority sheets.
Yeah. I put together, this was a portion of the spreadsheet. What I just gave you, what you just ranked is what's on the board tab of this particular spreadsheet. So staff, we all individually ranked or gave our priorities as well. And there's different tabs for everything. Brian has 3. So mine is on the business tab. It's the second one from that.
So we don't have this in our.
You don't, I didn't want to give this to you ahead
Okay.
of time to influence your rankings.
Influence you.
Yep. So
Horse track, you get a cheat sheet.
each one you have to do and down on the bottom. You can do the bottom right corner. See the little slider is down there. Yep. Did you wipe out all my stuff? Okay, maybe do it the way that you know. I like a slider. 1 or 2, A or B. Then you just have to scroll back up.
No.
There you go.
There you go, stop.
The majority of my priorities for this next year, because this is where I saw the biggest, two big opportunities. One is this job is way more HR intensive than I thought it was going to be. There's a lot of opportunities around just writing policies and getting things consistent across the organization. So that's really my big priority for this year, because I think once that's done, the HR concentration of my job will be much less, because there won't be questions, everything will be documented. So I want to sit with everyone and go over their job descriptions and make sure that they still fit what they're actually doing, so that we can look and do the second part, which is making sure that we're paying fairly. But I need to make sure that everybody's job accurately reflects what they're actually doing. Deliver the revised handbook. I'm still waiting to hear back from Suzanne. I sent that to her in the end of October. So my goal was to have it in front of you in January, but she hasn't gotten back to me. I'll follow up with her again tomorrow to see where we're at with that. And then I scanned in all of our employee files from the paper files that were in the drawer into electronic formats. So as I was doing that, I noticed that there's a lot of inconsistency in the files. Not everybody has all the same papers in their files. So I want to make sure that everyone has the policies signed, everyone has a job description, everyone has all of those same things all across the board, just because that's where we have a lot of questions. And I misspelled onboarding. I need to add a few things in there because there's some things that have changed with the onboarding documents. We have a Bernie portal now, which is where we do all of our benefits and stuff, and there's additional steps that need to be done. Evaluate the vendor expenses, which, as you know, I've been kind of working my way down. We sort of started with Mainscape, which was the biggest one, and then we worked down. We looked at Tetra Tech, and we looked at some of the other bigger vendors as well, and making sure that we have POs for everything, making sure that we're spending money according to contract, the vendors are following their contracts. So that's a big focus. I think we have some opportunity there as well. And then we continue to track our expenses against the budget and look for opportunities. Now that we have that Purify software, I can tell you like at any given moment where we are with the budget, what we've approved, what's actually been spent, and what we have left for the year. And then one final thing that we have the capability to do with the Purify software is to move our accounts payable in-house. I have had it. It's painful trying to get the checks, the bills paid through Infomark. It's painful. It's horrible. Most weeks I have to ask them to go and check to find the stuff that we sent them to get it submitted. If they put in a new vendor, it takes 2 days for them to make this little adjustment so that I can actually approve the bill to get it paid. They still have not uploaded our 2021 new budget codes in there. And so every week when I pay bills, I'm like, can you add this GL in there? I can't approve this. I can't code things correctly because they haven't added everything in. And then if we would need a check, like right away, there's no way for us to get a check in a timely manner. So if we had the accounts payable in-house, I would be able to just send a spreadsheet over to Infomark of here's all the accounts that we spent against, this is the journal entries you need to make, and they can just make adjustments on their side. So it'll make things a lot easier for us, give us a lot more flexibility.
Are they flexible in their processes? I mean, they're certainly aware of your frustration.
Yeah,
What
to
are they
a
doing to
point.
help?
We're kind of at their mercy for when things happen, and if bills get stuck in the system and if they don't get in there in time to get paid, not our fault. We sent them when we were supposed to. If there's a holdup on there and it's at least a week delay to get something paid, where I could just put it in, print the check, and be done. So.
I hear that you can do it. I'm just wondering why they're not more responsive in doing.
I think they
Meeting our
have
expectations.
schedules because they have multiple clients. We're not their only customer. They have a schedule where this is the day that we approve, this is the day we submit, this is the day we print, and that's how they do it.
Maybe they need to be more flexible.
I had the same problem with the client, and I said, yeah, we're one of yours, but we're one of your biggest, so take a hint.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we don't want our business,
We tell them,
just-
It doesn't matter how many
how
customers you
bad
have.
do you want us?
As a customer, we have certain expectations. You can
Exactly.
deliver on it or you can't. I mean,
Can't,
the
that's
fact
fine.
you've got multiple clients or customers, that's a you problem, not a me problem.
And we have a lot of problems with the interface, the software that we have to interface between to get for me to code and approve the invoices and then for them to get bumped into the accounting software. There's a lot of issues with stuff getting loaded in there as well.
So I know you have to leave, and I just want to hit on a couple things. So one, when I look at this, more than half of your items are HR and administrative related. I think we've kind of talked through in the past. I think I've brought up, I think a couple times that, that's been an area that we just haven't had. Now, we're not big enough to probably have a full dedicated HR resource.
Yeah.
And we do have partners that I can outsource to. But I still think within your role, there may be some oversight in that area, but I would much rather see some of this HR function even be allocated to more like an office manager or someone that could do some of the legwork. Because where I see this role as the business manager, operations manager, whatever you want to call yourself, is someone that is driving, efficiency and optimization. I think with your background, you bring a lot of, expertise, more than just finance and accounting to the role. And I would really look to see you build off of that. I think driving, at least from an administrative perspective, the PMO or the project management office within an organization, I think starts and stops with your finance and accounting, because everything drives around budget. You can, regardless of whether you got people or equipment to do something, if you don't have the money to fund it, then it doesn't get done. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that every project we do gets delivered on time and on budget. More times than not, it's on budget rather than on time, unless there's some drivers. But I would much rather see us maintain cost and give a little bit on delivery time, except for those critical items. So I'd like to see this shift as we move forward, your priorities to more of that operations, that business manager, and driving that accounting and finance opportunities, working with Stephen and an vendor to identify areas. And also, I think this role is to help provide some oversight to all of the functional areas and help support, Kenny and Brian in their areas, but also being there to help support Chris and the things that he needs. So these are things that have to get done. You jumped in, and I appreciate you being put on multiple hats.
I'm not gonna argue with you about giving up the HR stuff.
And it's something you come in, you have, I'm sure you probably complained about it, but maybe not publicly with a board here. So I would much rather you shift to your areas of expertise and where you can really drive additional enhanced value once you get over these specific hurdles.
Hey, I'm hoping that I would say by March at the latest, I should have all of the HR stuff handled and done, which gives me additional 6 months yet this fiscal year just to focus on that. Not that I won't be doing that in the meantime, but I'm hoping all the HR stuff these items should be resolved by the end of March.
And as far as your headcount, in order for you to execute on what you have and what you foresee in the future, do you have the number of heads that you need in order to execute?
I do, yeah. Georgia's been really super helpful. Like I can, a lot of that administrative stuff, I just give it to her.
And just so the board knows, you're responsible, like who reports up to you now?
Julie and Georgia.
Okay.
So the accounts
So you have the
payable.
administrative, the accounts payable?
Yep, and then Leslie has Vicky reports to her because that's all billing, so she.
Yes, and you're still reporting up to Brian, to Kenny.
You report to Chris.
Oh, you report directly, okay.
Yeah, we all, the four of us all report to Chris.
Questions?
Yeah, for you. So in summary, are you looking for maybe add somebody just to handle HR issues?
Well, in my opinion, for an organization this size, you have an office manager. The office manager also has some HR responsibility. The problem is here, we don't have a dedicated HR. So from handling, employee relations or paperwork and, that type of stuff, we don't have anyone dedicated. So the managers, if you want to update someone's personnel file or if there's performance, they're doing it. But you need another person who's responsible to help provide checks and balances, oversight, and make sure we're staying within regulatory and any compliance.
That's what I'm doing, trying to anyway.
Yeah.
And when I'm not trying,
That's great.
understand,
And so you jumped in that role, but I think it should fall within, in my opinion, within an office manager. Like it should be a shared responsibility within that role. Anything else for Laura? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good luck.
I'll get these
Have fun.
compiled into you at the next meeting. I'll get Mr. Guys from him before then. Thank you.
And I'd like to take a few minutes and ask Brian to come up and then Kenny and myself, because we just had some priorities that we wanted to bring up from a staff standpoint. And a lot of those you saw reflected in our budget last year, but same thing, you might want to have some comments on it, what our thought process is. Brian, you want to start with the Parks and Rec side?
Sure. Parks and Recs. I didn't bring Tim up here, but I guess I'm gonna have to kind of give you a rundown on what the pool is. If you're not aware, the pool hasn't been resurfaced in 14 years. A commercial grade pool like that, I've instructed should be done in 10. So we're about 4 years overdue. But we're having issues now with you're cleaning the sides of that pool 2-3 times a day because the algae will not go away. The water's fine, but the problem is the pool is flaking off the surface. You use a vacuum, it's all going in the pool. Tim got 2 different quotes. I can tell you the cheapest one was $120,000.
So we almost build a new pool for that.
Well, here's our suggestion.
I mean, seriously.
We, you have, and I've got Tim run a report, probably about 400 residents a month that use that pool. Now, what I told him also to do is go back and check January, February of this year prior to COVID because we did not have our Canadians here. So I can't go by the numbers, and he's pulling numbers for January and February, so I'll know what we had then because with COVID this year's been crazy up and down. Parks and Recs, like I say, the issue over here is, and I've looked up, Kenny's gonna help us out, the drainage on the soccer fields. Matt Tyre gave me a quote, he's the only one would quote me, is like $48,000 to redo the drainage.
I've never seen it.
Talked to Kenny, he thinks his guys can do it because the excavator, all we do is then buy the pipe. we could probably do it in-house and save 40,000.
We could do it for 40,000?
They 40,000.
No, we'd save
So
40,000,
we could do it for under 10?
because I'm talking just buying the pipe and Kenny's folks doing it, laying it out. What we're gonna have to do is, talk to Felix, we don't have basically a level, laser level to do it, but you can buy one of those for a couple grand or less, which his crews will have down the road for later on, which will basically in the long run pay off for us. But the drainage over there, instead of spending $50,000, we can do this in-house, save a lot of money, and pick up some equipment that Kenny's guys have used in the long run down the road.
Even French, like French drain?
No, actually, we have existing 6-inch corrugated pipe.
Yeah, underneath the deal.
They're in between the fields.
Yeah.
We redid all the drain boxes over there.
Drain boxes look good, Bob.
But what to do, so we don't have to take those out, is you take the 6-inch corrugated out, you put in 6-inch regular,
Sleeve.
it's kind of like a Schedule 80 type of deal. Then it'll go in there, so that way that conduit is cleanable down the road. Because
So
right now,
it's just so,
it's so packed and so,
Packed.
and
it's not draining.
you can't stick any type of a vacuum or anything to blow it out, because you'll blow the
Put a
pipe
jet
out.
in it.
You'll blow it out. So I'm like, well, I can't do this anymore because it's shot. And right now your drainage actually goes into the wetland over by the school.
So you got structures, can we just replace the pipe between the structures?
That's what we're going to do. But what we're going to do is then tie it into our storm drain system on this side.
That's where I was gonna ask next, where's it going? to?
Well, it's going to go this way, because currently right now it heads up toward the wetland over there by the school. So it's really, that's filled in, so it's not draining there. It kind of backs up, which causes it to have more. So we do have storm drain structure, it runs all down the road, and it drains into that pond, which we can tie into those.
Have you got enough elevation?
Yes,
You do that.
yes. So
I like that.
I got a print. We talked to Felix and Kenny. They think they can do it. So I figured, okay, we'll shoot for probably around March. When the leagues are not ready to kick back up yet. It's dry season. It's just a matter of ordering a pipe and we can get with a couple different vendors and get the pipe.
What is it, 24 inches deep? It's more?
No more.
No more
I'd
than
say if it's more,
No.
how the hell is it
No.
gonna drain?
You're probably talking 18, 24 max. And that 24 be timed into the storm drain. So that's one way we looked at saving money. Your pool issue, this is going to be an ongoing battle, but what we would like to do, and we've looked at this before, if we're going to spend that kind of money and you want to get up to the Timber Creeks of the world that's going in, then you need to put some kind of facility up there to draw people into Gateway. We have no tennis courts, we have no pickleball courts, we have no basketball court, we have none of that stuff in the Gateway. Stony Brook has more than us, Pelican definitely has more than us, Gateway Greens has more than us. If you want to put something to draw people into here, because I saw what Timber Creek has planned, they got a water park plan. I'm like, holy cow, they're going to pay for it. But we got an estimate for about 400,000 to do all that there. If you throw the pool in, you're $500,000, you got a top-notch facility. And the pool we would like to do is something like Mr. Tinkle had done over there. If you're going to resurface it, make it more up to the 21st century and still sit back in the 1990s.
Yeah, I almost,
This is one I would do a survey monkey on, because I can tell you, this dog ain't gonna hunt inside Gateway Greens. The majority of the people are.
But the majority of the
They
people
wanna
don't.
spend that money.
You got 1/3 live in Gateway Greens and 2/3 don't. I got people come to me, my neighbors, and tell me, we're gonna go play tennis. I said, well, you gotta go to Lehigh, or you gotta go there, because they don't want to pay the money in Gateway Greens, because it costs too much. So now they're going out to Lehigh or the new high school when it gets built. Pickleball, where are you gonna go? There's no pickleball courts. I know, talking to Mr. Geppert, they're building additional courts over in Pelican
we're
Reserve.
doubling.
They're doubling.
Well, I think at the end of the day, we've been talking about the need to build out that area, that Commons Park area. We've been talking about it for years and years, and you're gonna have a yay and a nay. I think it's something that we need to consider, and just to keep the community up to, up to standards with every other community. And if it was me on that pool, I think that the way it's constructed, it's a lap pool. You have to completely just destroy it and rebuild it in order to come up with anything else. So and I don't want to design anything on the fly right now, but I would say I'd build a more recreational type pool and keep that as a lap pool. And then what are some critical items that we could have, that we could build, that let's say the majority of Gateway could use, and maybe stay away from amenities that might be in other areas. So like for Gateway Greens, for example, they're not gonna come to play tennis, but we'll probably have, couple tennis courts. But is there other areas that we can provide, Gateway Greens, even if it's a walking path or something, pickleball or something that the Greens doesn't have,
Bocce ball court.
that would be willing to at least, or even just a facility that could be rented, it's not about, well, we need to try to satisfy the masses, but at the same time, what we don't need is duplication of a lot of amenities that some communities have. But if we want to stay up with these new developments, we're gonna have to do something. And it doesn't make any sense to pour any more money into the fun park or to the pool unless we got more people going. Because you look at the volume, I'm sorry, but the volume does not justify the amount of money that we spend on the pool. And we can make that same argument, for some of the other parks and recs that we have. We spend a lot of money, maintaining the parks and recs and we're not making that money back.
Correct. You spend about
But
200.
part of that is having amenities, and amenities aren't supposed to be revenue generating for most communities.
No parks and recs are. I mean, we're spending 250,000 a year over a year for these soccer fields.
Yeah.
I do know an engineering company that specializes in amenities.
Yeah, let's put a plan together.
And if you want,
you and I
you
were
want, I
talking
can-
for 2 years. Just
I can
put a plan
reach out.
together. Let's at least have something where people can say, yep,
I can reach out and give somebody, give us a designer what they think.
and phase it.
Then you can phase it, or you put it out in front of the members or the residents and say, here's what we would like to do. Are you willing to kick up this amount of
And
money?
some of it is just simply like, again, have a place where you can walk, you can ride your bike. We were talking about having some type of amphitheater, because there's no place in Gateway Greens or anywhere.
It was all designed.
Pelican
for that
probably has,
design.
you've got a place
We
where you
have
can do that.
a shallow.
But, it's those types of things that, when you have July 4th and these,
Sure.
where the community could host certain types of things.
Well, Miss
It doesn't have to be apartments.
Miss L found the original
Something
plans
every
for up
square
there.
foot.
And that's what I was
You
gonna
had an amphitheater designed up there at one time with pickleball, then it's tennis courts, walk path around that whole 15 acres.
Open, free area. Yeah.
It had all kinds of
Picnic
designs.
spots, yeah.
That's one of them that's on the radar.
I
The
think
pool,
that's something we should probably push forward with. That's low cost to get somebody to do a design plan.
well, I have somebody in mind that can at least go ahead and take a look at from a professional
I would
standpoint.
completely be in favor of that.
I have one to add into that. I can tell you that I have heard a lot of residents planning actually to move because of no amenities. I ask that quite often. I believe April, I don't know if we're talking about the same thing, but I know at one point April did work on a project, and to me, it kind of almost looked like a water park, a plan for that area. So I know we're talking about having two already. So we have one that was prepared and presented to the board by April. And if you say.
There was an original one from back in the
so that's
90s.
two.
It was a
So, I mean.
splash park or something.
It was designed
That
back
was
in the
April's,
90s.
but I think that his is different.
Yeah.
So, I could.
If you want, I'll look into, I got an engineering company in mind, let them turn at least give us an estimate, give us little drawings and say what they think. I mean, because I would like to have something from an outside perspective, and these people do this for a living, so they can say, hey, this is what do that amount of acres, we got 15 acres up there.
And it really doesn't matter if you have, okay, here's, on this plan, there's 4 tennis courts. Well, we don't need 4 tennis courts. We need maybe 2 pickleball. Okay, we can plug and play on
And we
that,
can
but at least
phase
you
it.
got a design.
Right.
You say, it's gonna cost X amount, let's just split that in.
If
maybe
you
2
want,
phases or 3
I'll
phases.
reach out to the engineering company, see what they come up with.
I'm all
Yeah.
for it.
To make sure we don't run afoul of the Consultants Competitive Negotiations Act, you don't have to competitively solicit if you have to treat it as a planning or studying activity.
That's
Right.
It's a research.
And it has to be under $35,000.
Oh, that's not a problem.
Okay, I just want to let you know.
35?
Yeah.
499.
Yeah.
For planning or study activity, that's what.
Okay, well, that's not a problem.
Just wanna-
I do know a company, like I say, that does this for a living, it's a front line.
Yeah, again,
So,
I would have a hard time approving $120,000 to resurface a pool that just has limited use and it just doesn't justify it. And I would love to see in the future, us be able to eliminate, that the basketball court and the volleyball over at the fun park.
Correct. And put it all in one
Put
location.
it all in one place. And if the church wants to maintain the playground area and the structure over there, then let them have it.
Big question. Can we keep keep everybody out of Gateway out of that, or out of that, those facilities.
We can key card it.
You can key card it just like you would a pool. You got your gateway resident,
So the problems they're having at the fun park would go away.
because it'll be all being fenced in.
Something's gonna weigh on.
No, you can't, it's a public facility, you can't totally exclude them, but you can have a rate schedule that has a rate differential,
Like the dog park.
because the residents pay assessments, which help fund most of the operation and maintenance costs. And so you can say for non-residents, you can have up here,
If they don't pay for it, how come you have to let it?
it's a public facility. That's how they pay for it. They'll pay for it through a membership or user fee, and that's the schedule.
So the theory is their skin in the game is the fee you charge.
Yes.
We do the dog park that way. They do pay a bigger fee down here for
So
non-residents.
It's $20 annually for a key card for a resident.
$20.
$250,
It's
$300.
$500 for a non-resident or for amenities.
I could go with that. But
I'm going to have rental races for.
And I would, I mean, glad, I mean, consider because as much as it's a pain in the rear sometimes to have your key card, it's
people, I'm tired of hearing people talk about that fun park with it being predominantly Lehigh kids over here playing. That's
non-residents
that's
that
not getting,
aren't invested in maintaining the.
well, we don't charge anything right now.
It's not really gated or fenced.
I would,
And
so
so
we can talk about that as part of the plan.
that's one item. Roads and sidewalks. I've done research with this. I've got with different companies. I got with Bonus. Bonus gave me a rundown here just on your roads. This is the cost for the roads that Gateway owns. And excluding the parking lot here. I did not do this parking lot. I can later, but
Is this cost to replace or repair?
basically remill and repave our asphalt roads. If you're not aware of it, we do have a lot of asphalt roads up by the industrial park, soccer park, the parking lots here. I included everything that we do except for right around our own building.
But you gotta have a timeline on that all those aren't due right
No,
now.
what I'm looking at is a 5-year plan. If we break this down to a 5-year plan, you're looking at $150,000 a year for your roads. And that would be, we would start with the worst and work our way up. Because right now you're looking at $725,000, $730,000. If I figure a 5-year plan, you're looking at about $150,000. Currently you have $50,000 in the budget for roads.
And this is, and you got sidewalks separate.
Separate, that's a separate item. On your sidewalks,
How many miles of roads is this, or square yards of roads is this?
I got on another spreadsheet, I didn't bring it with me, but I do have that. Because I have ONS break it down by square yards.
Yeah, that's what they do.
So the sidewalks, I got a whole spreadsheet and a half of sidewalks, and I went with ONS the same way. You're looking at a 5-year plan of probably, we got 150,000 this year, we had 50 last year. And we're just going to hit worse spots. If you did 150,000, you probably need anywhere between 5 to 10 years to get your sidewalks up to par.
Those 3 or 4, just from you, since you weren't here, but on the takeovers, WCI, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, we took those 6 roads or 5 roads and resurfaced. So those should be at least 15, 20 years out before we have to do any milling and paving.
Yeah, I thought they.
They brought those all up to speed.
I'm not saying we don't, I'm just telling you, this is something, and I will get with Vanessa, we'll prioritize.
It'll be scheduled.
And we'll schedule
That's in the 5 year.
We'll wait beyond 5 years.
This is just something to let you know what it's gonna cost down the road to maintain our roads.
No pun intended, right?
No pun intended. We did have some potholes up by Westland, by Lee Memorial.
The last 6.
So we fixed some potholes as we're going. The other issue was your sidewalks. We all know the sidewalks in the condition here. What I did find out is the county on this roundabout is taking our asphalt sidewalks out and putting concrete in. I don't want that. I don't agree with that because the oak trees do the same thing the rest of the sidewalks. You'll still have those sidewalks are gonna be near oak trees and they're putting concrete back in, not the pavement that we have now. I don't know how they got away not putting like for like, but they're not.
This column here that we have is the roads, where's the sidewalks identified at? They appear to be the same, but I don't see it on that schedule.
She didn't put it on there. I gave her, there's a separate spreadsheet I have for the sidewalks. The sidewalks, I think I had like 1.5 million.
See, the sidewalks, the problem is there's repair and replace, and then there's preventative maintenance. And in order to have preventative maintenance, you're talking about, you have to remove the root cause. Again, no pun intended.
It's the root.
It's
the tree root.
You hit the nail on the head.
That's the whole philosophical shift that we're gonna have to take in this community, which means, abandon our core oak thresholds. And I don't think you're gonna get by with.
So I knew that was gonna come up.
Yeah.
Griffin really doesn't have problems. You don't have oak trees down Griffin until you get from around the corner from that penalty easement going out. That section has been identified, trust me, it's on that corner as well. Gateway Boulevard is gonna be your issue. And here's where, after speaking with asphalt people like Boness and a few other ones, my intention is the roads that are, or the sidewalks that are popping up due to the roots. If you can't take all the trees out, and we know we're never going to, then what you do is you put root barriers and you put asphalt back, not concrete. Concrete's 4 inches thick. When those roots get underneath it, they do this. Asphalt just gives you the ripples. That's real easy to fix. You come back, you saw it, and you repave it, you're done. It's so much cheaper. You get 1.5 inches of blacktop compared to 4 inches of concrete, and you don't get what I call the on-ramps. Mr. Tinkle should know down by his house, right? We got some major ones, some oak trees. If the oak trees want to stay, the best thing to do is to make it all blacktop. If you ride a bike, it's smoother ride anyway, and it's going to be a lot cheaper to maintain these being asphalt, not the concrete.
Or the other one is to take out every other oak tree.
That's correct.
And that's the solution.
And the correct,
Take out every other oak tree. You'll still have a canopy. Those things are, you can even see sunlight coming through those trees. So you're not gonna hurt
In the
anything.
county-
No difference.
and the county specs now on oak trees are every 120 feet apart. Because if you got oak tree out here 60 feet, the other one's 60 feet, they're going to meet. Problem is, we have 3 or 4 other ones in between, so some of them getting drowned out anyway.
So what I would love to see personally is, one, we do some thinning. We identify those that existing roots have problems, we're gonna thin out, and then migrate to, asphalt sidewalks, and I would do it piecemeal. I would see if we can, if it's more cost effective to come in and do it in sections, but not just through a repair and replace. And honestly, if you go past Hidden Links,
It's all
or
concrete.
Stony Brook, you've got all these
Little dinky
little
ones between the sidewalk.
tear them out today.
Well, here's the other issue
So
with the
anything
project.
that's not in a certain, anything that's a low level of effort to pull and burn.
Speaking of that, here's what I was going to bring up. 'Cause I know it's going to throw them off the deep end. That back entrance into Pelican, you take every oak tree out along that boulevard all the way down the entrance of Stony Brook, because those are now small and Mainscape can do it. Once they get big,
Yeah.
forget it.
We see, we're.
The back entrance to Pelican, you have oak trees between the sidewalk,
Yes.
all those little bitty ones,
Yes.
they need to come out now. Because if you
You should
wait,
never go in.
Yeah.
exactly, but
That's
if you
exactly
wait,
what I'm saying.
you wait till they get big like the rest of these,
You'll
they're
be
gonna
tearing up
cost,
all those sidewalks too,
and the streets.
and the streets. I agree.
And that was another issue. I haven't got a quote for that, but I was kind of, but since you brought it
Those
up,
will be a lot less expensive than those
yes.
on up between Gateway and Alden.
You pull those out and you replace them, every so often with a couple of nice looking palms, people aren't gonna say.
Correct.
Well, we've already started from the north end back with a palm motif anyway.
Well, that's what
So
we're
it's
going to do is
deal.
continue that trend. We wouldn't put in the big royals, but you put in different palms like we have in the median. That get a little bit higher, but they don't intrude on your roads and your streets. I can't get a quote for that. I do know I have one quote now, remove 45 big oak trees just for the street lights alone so they can shine on the roads. Because you're not aware of it. You're supposed to have so many lumens coming down on your roads. We do not. I can tell you for a fact, some of them I don't know they're on until I'm directly underneath them.
Can we use that? I know we have some equipment,
Ask Ken, does that?
and we have some equipment that can pull those up.
A chainsaw. Big time.
Those, Anchor was giving us a quote for about 1,200 to 1,300 bucks a piece on those big oaks. I have 45 oak trees for 62,000. I'm gonna tell you what, you're not gonna beat that.
You are not gonna beat that price.
Because them suckers are 3 to 4 foot round. They're huge. And that was just to thin out the oaks by the street.
Very good price. We've been doing that over there.
So how much? What was the total on that?
62,000 for 45 oaks, just for the streetlights. And speaking of streetlights, that was my next thing. We currently have 140 streetlight poles on Gateway Boulevard and West Links that are not LED. And what's going to happen with these roundabouts, the county's coming in and putting these brand new LEDs in. Griffin's LEDs. From Stony Brook back so far, the county, when they did that road, those are LEDs. Your streetlights are 35 years old. They're falling apart, the electric in between, deteriorating. We've been piecemealing this for years. The goal was, what I like to do is a 5-year plan. We start down here at Daniels. We go to the first roundabout, replace all those with LEDs because they're going to have the LEDs around the roundabout. Then we go down the West Links. Commerce going this way is FP&L, it's not ours, from the Saucy Meatball going out, but the other way is. Then we continue from there, that roundabout to the other roundabout once that starts, because that's probably in another year. Then after that, we continue north, or we can start down at Stony Brook and come this way.
Are you talking about changing the shoebox and the light,
Everything.
or just?
Wiring, the lights, everything. Post, the post, Bentley gave us a quote for $7,700 a pole.
I would not, I don't think those posts are bad. I think the problem is the same thing we ran into Gateway Greens. You got those shoe boxes that are not well adapted to handle the temperature on those LEDs is something else. So you probably want to just replace that whole thing at the top. Very similar to what we did on Griffin Drive.
And we can do that too. I mean, we can just, for the fixture, the whole pole and a fixture, you can make a quote for $7,700 per pole.
To replace the pole and.
Everything's included, pole, fixture,
Basically, a
everything.
whole new deal.
Whole new, just like you would have down here in
Replace the
Stony Brook.
shoebox and that. We should.
You take the big cost out if you eliminate the pole.
But then you get, then you go from a concrete pole to what they're using out there now. Currently ours is all concrete poles. What we did do is when they took the 4 out down here at the roundabout, I have them sitting over here now in case something gets hit, because we'll have a spare pole and some extra fixtures. But streetlight maintenance, you're spending roughly, some years 49, 50,000. This last year, we were like 35 to 40. So you're spending $40,000 a year just on the maintenance of your streetlights.
So what's the total cost? I mean, you don't have it just for equipment minus the pole. Like we kept the pole. Yeah, you know what it would cost?
That would be cheaper, because what I figured was 140 poles at $7,700 a pop is roughly 1.1 million. You do it over 5 years, you're talking 210,000 a year.
I don't remember what Bentley charges for these, what was it, Chris, 24 lights, what, it down Griffin?
I can't remember, Mr. Tinkle, that was just a switch out.
Yeah, well, they did they changed the shoebox, didn't they?
Right.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And I can get a quote for that instead of the whole pole, just do the top part, which will make that a lot cheaper, but you still will have the LED. My problem concern is the wiring. All that wiring is shot. It's 35 years old. We've been replacing sections as we're going. What we could do then is when, like say from Daniels coming up, you chase the heads out, you put LEDs and you pull new wire between A to B. So instead of spending the $7,700 on that, then you'll have new wiring. Luckily, Billy has done a lot of new wiring.
Your problem is that how would you get that wiring from pole to pole with that landscaping that's in there other than open trench down the edge of the,
Best way to do it.
that's what you have to do.
And I suggest when you open trench, you put a conduit in.
You just go right up to the back of the curb, 6 inches off. That's what you got to do.
I mean,
Whatever was there.
And you come to the pole and just anything that's there, just let it
and
melt
when
away.
you open trenches, you put it in a conduit in there so you have it for later when something goes bad or
Yes,
something gets
just
hit.
pull it out.
Brian, do you have a monthly electric cost on those 140 poles?
I
And
can
when I
get
just
one.
compare that to, if we put the LED in, there's a payback, it might be a 30-year payback, but.
In Gateway, we pay $9. We don't have any meters. They're $9 per pole, and at FPL owns it, it's another $9 for maintenance.
Per pole,
Per pole, per.
versus whatever a monthly bill would be.
If we own the pole, then the only thing that we're paying them for is power. We handle all the maintenance.
Correct.
$9-10 a month.
But your LEDs, like over here at the soccer, when we change those out, those are good for like 15 years or so.
So, but I
many
just thought
hours.
the monthly consumption was considerably different in kilowatt hours.
You
Oh,
can
yeah,
argue
it
an inefficiency with FPL for a rate reduction. It's a tough one.
I
We
had,
have a harder time with it.
I had Billy figure out these lights over here, just when we did these, the amount of usage dropped by 2/3. I mean, literally.
Did that correspond to a reduction in the billing?
Oh, big time, because you went from basically.
We did it in Pelican, we changed a bunch, on the premise that we were gonna save energy.
And to be
Year
honest,
over year, we
it
didn't save
looks
any
back
energy.
to-
We say, we changed all ours over to LED.
And that's what we did, but we never got the savings.
Yeah, trouble is, we went with an El Cheapo LED, and where we thought we were gonna multi-year life, 3 to 5 of them burning out, we're having to replace them now.
Rather
And part of it is,
than 10 to 12.
part of it is we tried to get cheap, and instead of replacing the shoebox, we went in and modified the shoebox with an adapter to handle the LED, and the heat just absolutely tears them apart. Some of them look like they melted. So,
The problem is.
You don't wanna do that.
Yeah, Your voltage,
That doesn't work.
you're 480 volts on that, so it's.
yeah, you're 480, so ours are 220.
It's a hot pot, trust me.
You're
They run hot.
So just from your perspective, you've got roads, sidewalks, lighting.
Not done yet.
Okay, well, I'll let you get finished.
You've exceeded our budget.
Oh, I blew that budget out of water.
Move into stormwater?
Your stormwater is your next one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, before we leave this, we have, is there a capital budget for our fixed assets as a community? I mean, like,
You need a capital reserve plan?
Yeah.
Oh,
You probably didn't let me know because the deal with the haystack is right next door.
Yeah, that's,
So has there been a capital reserve study of all of the assets at Gateway? And what the youthful life expectancy is in X number of years?
no.
And how much you have to budget every year
I
to?
started it about 10 years ago and got through the utilities. And then found out, at that time, I don't remember who was here, I guess it was finished up with April.
Right?
Jesse?
No, I think April was here.
April.
April White, yeah.
10 years?
Yeah, I remember.
And then she started feeding me all of the non-utility assets, and that's what I do with hands up. I said, this, unbelievable.
Well, it doesn't change the need for it. I
It's a
understand.
lot of work.
I understand. We hired somebody to do it.
And that's what we need to do. There's
Yeah,
first.
I guess that's where I'm going to.
Yeah.
Even if it's terrible news, we ought to at least.
we have actually been talking about that for about 4 years, about doing that we needed an inventory so we can, and
Right.
honestly, there's just been so much other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
But-
Well, that's why he outsourced it. I mean,
But there's firms that will do it, but it's only as good as what you give them. Because if you want to have them come in and do the inventory, it's going to cost an arm and a leg. But if you can provide them with the inventory and hit the big stuff, then they can take and do the cost of service life on it and come back and tell you what.
because that covers the sidewalks, it covers the roads, covers all the things you're talking about. Just kind of think that,
I think.
not to take it piecemeal, we need to look at the comprehensive. This needs to be done too, and a bite at a time. So let's get a long-term vision.
I totally agree.
Before we get to the sidewalk, to the
Stormwater.
stormwater, back to the sidewalk, I was planning to go back to the county and.
I have to bring that up because I want to see what the county wants to do, because I'm gonna have to reach out to the guy who engineered from the county. I thought for sure they're one like for like and putting it back the way it was. The only place we have existing concrete sidewalk is going toward the Saucy and Eagle heading east. All the other trails are out there in that area are asphalt. So now you're talking, instead of doing 1.5 inches, you're putting a 4-inch concrete sidewalk. That's more expensive. Personally, on our standpoint, we want the asphalt because of the oak trees, that when we need to go back replace it, we're not tearing all that concrete back out.
Is there any warranty on that? They putting any warranty on them?
On the road move part of that,
No, just the
sidewalk,
sidewalk structure.
1 year.
1 year's probably, you never get more than a
And
year.
nothing will happen in 1 year, 1 day, that's when.
Well, if they don't cut the roots off that are under the sidewalk.
You've got to terminate those.
That's what we've done when we replace concrete. We terminate the roots
Correct.
and then put it in, we're getting about 8, 9 years out of it.
But I think also aesthetic, if we're going to, we just approved this
Go to asphalt.
$90,000 and then now you're gonna have concrete, it's gonna be cheaper, so I don't think we're gonna get a lot of pushback. Because everyone's
Oh, no,
gonna
I think
say
they love it.
It'll be cheaper for us to repair it and then you're gonna get aesthetic, everything's gonna look the same, so I think that's.
So I'm gonna reach out to the county engineer and say, hey, instead of doing concrete, can you do the sidewalks the way they are right now, which is asphalt? Because then it'll tie in the rest of our stuff that's already there. And it's easier to maintain on us in the long run.
Or take the money and tell them you'll put it in.
Oh, that's true, because they're charging.
Like
Stormwater,
what you think.
stormwater. The only thing on stormwater that I see that we need to start doing is dredging our flowways out. We have Flowway 3 that we all know has an island out in the middle. I got 2 quotes on it. The cheapest one was $658,000. The other quote was almost $1 million. And that's pretty much.
We can build our own internal capabilities, is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying, Flowway 3 has a sandbar down the middle of it.
Oh, you said, okay.
And here's what happens when your flowways are filling in. The water has nowhere to go, so it goes up into people's houses and basements. The problem is these ponds, these flowway ponds especially, need to be dredged back out to the original when they were built 35 years ago or 30 years ago, in some cases 20 years ago. I know you get Flowway 3, which goes from Gateway, Greens, or Hidden Links into Pelican. I walked across it this year. It was so shallow you walk across it. So those need to be dredged out, especially that one is the worst. And why you putting a barge on it, because you got to put a barge on it and put an excavator in the middle of it. You got boats, you got to haul it off, kind of like what Metro did with your pond, and they haul it off. If we do it on site and take that dirt and we dump it at the soccer field, then we kill 2 birds with 1 stone. If we put it, then we got the base up there for that. Because if you haul it off, this price will double or triple. So to me, if we do it up there, you're not hauling it out of here. It's a lot cheaper.
Do we know what the original depth was for the flowway in that area?
I can get the bathymetric study and do that. We do
And
have
then what,
that.
I mean, what it was built and designed to play it
What the
We
plans
do.
call.
versus what the actual is.
Yeah, we can find out.
We do on the ponds, but the only problem I found out we don't have an original because it's been widened already is a little piece that goes from Hidden Links into yours. That little section was very wide, very low, and they finally widened it out a little bit, but they never went down. But we do have a bathymetric of the original ponds and those depths. I have a feeling if it's kind of like the flowway one down there on the 75, you're probably talking foot, 2.5 foot of that come out of there. And pretty much what you do is you put a barge down the middle, you go about 60 feet out both directions, you make basically a canal down the middle. You're not doing the whole pond, you're basically doing a canal right down the middle for your flowway for that water to go. Just like a channel for on a river, you had a channel. But those are filled in, and I know for a fact I saw it this year, and I got pictures. You looked over here, an aerial shot, you can see it from Google Earth, sandbar right down the middle of that one.
I don't remember ever seeing a set of drawings on what he just described, the connector between Pelican Reserve and Hidden Links. I don't know that I've ever seen those.
I know I hadn't, but remember that they've only developed that in the last 4 years for us.
I think it was just a habit.
And I think Elle told me they widened it out a couple of years back.
Yeah.
But they never,
Yeah,
We
yeah,
had to
5
see over,
years.
that's about it.
they never, yeah.
They didn't go
So
out very.
what I would do with that is make it match the ponds on each side and widen that out where it's gonna be 5 or 6 feet deep in the channel, just like you would on both sides of
We
that.
really missed the opportunity as a board. Hold, Lennar, WCI accountable for doing it.
The one thing that when we touches this, going back, when we go back in August, I guess, when we lay projects again, maybe once we already have the equipment in there, take a look and see where they stand, so maybe we can start dredging some of the ponds that are getting repaired.
Well,
We kind of talked about that.
The cheap-
Get
yeah.
it in and get it out, it's already there.
here is the most expensive part about this, is your setup. If I got a barge around that pond, you need to do the whole pond. And what I was gonna do is if I already got a barge on the pond that goes between Gateway Greens over to Pelican, you do that pond, you come through that connector and you keep going around and you finish it. Because you already got it on there.
You have to do the one lift out.
Correct.
At
Because
the,
when you-
crossover for the,
That's the only one I really do. So basically, and that
No.
one,
well, that's true.
Yeah, there's
well,
two.
that we're gonna do with an excavator. Because what we'll do is we'll put the barge into the point where you get up to the golf cart bridge. Golf cart bridge back to the box culvert will be done with excavator because you wouldn't have to get this very small. But the big ponds, you gotta put a barge down the middle, it's the only way you're gonna do it. And we basically have 1, 2, 3 moves on that barge. And that's, if you got it there, you're picking up and you're moving it, and that's as cheap as you gotta do with a crane. It's just, but anyway, that's one we have to do. Your last but not least, and this can's been kicked down the road numerous years, your irrigation. Irrigation down Griffin, down Gateway Boulevard. I know Chris showed me something the other day. They had a survey done. Somebody come out and do a complete assessment of it. It's $1.7 to $2 million to replace it. And that's, I figured,
Just Gateway Boulevard.
and out here in Griffin.
And Griffin.
What is this again? Is that-
Main
Irrigation,
trunk.
all irrigation out here is
All new controllers, all new zones.
everything. I can tell you from talking to the people Mainscape and maintain it, I've seen it. We got 230 zones, folks, 140 up and down Gateway Boulevard, and I'm talking a box like you have at your house to control a zone.
Are they all on, battery operated, nodes?
Yeah, just replace the batteries on a lot of them. If, this is an if, you're talking about, I figure you did 400,000 a year, 5 years, you could probably get it done. I'm figuring probably $2 million. But I'd say once again, you would start down there, say at Daniels, and you would come north, and you hit the first roundabout, and while you're down there, you do everything at one shot. You do your street lights, your irrigation, you do everything while that trench is opened up and get it all done. It'll save you money in the long run. And you keep doing this in phases. You don't make a 5-year plan, make it a 10-year plan, you lower your price, but it has to be done. We've kicked this can down the road so many years. Mainscape tells me when I get a bill for batteries, I'm like, well, what's all this? And he tells me, I'm like, holy cow. But that's the list that I have. I know it's a shocker and eye opener, but.
Well, that's where I think, Ron, if you could come up with, here's a recommended approach for those items where if you're gonna be digging a trench, you might as well lay lighting, lay irrigation, do whatever. If you can come up with that plan and say, here's what it will cost, here's your from A to Z, total cost is X. If we can break that up in different phases if you want, but I'd like to know what total cost would be. And then your recommended, because we're not gonna want to do this over 10 years.
Well, my thing is just go debt finance this. Debt finance this. Why do I want to take and pay cash outright for somebody 20 years from now is going to benefit? And borrow the money with a 20-year loan and let them pay their share.
And it'll take us 2 years to complete the project.
Yeah, who cares?
It probably
Make
might
it very comprehensive, yeah, I totally agree with that.
And the main, I did speak to Juan today, and Mainscape, believe it or not, does have a layout of this. And I said, well, we're going to get first year together, and I'll see what he has compared to the report that Chris had me from somebody else, and see what was their plans to redo all this.
But I think had a plan. The problem they ran into is there was an argument here at this table about what are we going to do for the landscaping? What is going to be the scheme? We don't want to spend money for a water zone if it's going to require bubbler or rotors or whatever.
Sure.
But Mainscape did do a plan.
But I mean, if you come up with I think with an irrigation plan, I mean, you should be able to have the plan designed to where you can modify.
You mean multitask it?
Yeah.
You're probably, good examples, go down Gateway Boulevard, after you go past that crazy roundabout. Sprinkler heads last night were blasting the side of your car.
Yes.
We need those kind of heads
Well,
in there like we need all
that's
that.
that's where value engineering comes in as well. Like, let's go with,
It's like I said, it's piecemeal.
Yeah.
And my suggestion would be you do it in segments. And the best thing to do, since you have a roundabout going in, that's going to be there, you go from there to there, then you go east, west of there, then you continue it up. And it'll take coordination, but if you're going to do it and you got the trenches open, you take the trees out that you need to take out, you put your new street lights in that you want to do in the wiring, you run your new irrigation, and you hire a contractor to project manage it to do it, because there's going to be a massive, just like a road move, but I would say
standard bond issues.
yes.
So
You're probably talking $5 million to 10 to do all of Gateway, but you would have within 2 to 3 years or 5, all brand new stuff will last you another 30 years.
Well,
Right.
we did with the debt financing, we could make it one big package, it wouldn't take that long to do it.
That's,
But include everything, sidewalks, the street lights, the flowway,
your problem is.
irrigation, the aeration, I mean, just
Yeah, your
the
problem is it's
infrastructure
time for
package.
people to be able to do it at that massive a project. But even if you could do it in 3 to 5 years.
Right.
And have it all done with standard debt financing, I think that's the way
But
to
put
go.
all the goodies into a big package called infrastructure enhancements.
Yes.
Removal of the trees that we don't want, I mean, just package it all up.
I know the hardest part will be selling, will be the tree removal of the residents, but they need to really be advised of what the trees are doing to the infrastructure. I mean, they took a piece of corrugated pipe out the other day, what was basically my storm drain from the bullnose back. It came out in so many different pieces and it was all tore up. I'm like, so I knew that didn't drain.
But look, you can take Gateway Boulevard and pay someone, I don't know, a small amount to do a rendering of, here's the picture today, here's what it's gonna like tomorrow. Some areas you won't even be able to notice the oaks, others, you have these nice palms with updated landscaping. People will forget about all the canopy of that. So that's where the kind of change management piece comes in, where you have to communicate and let people know, this is what you're gonna get. You know, not only, and this is what you're gonna see.
Yeah.
What you're gonna get is, reduced assessments over, time because of blah, blah, blah. Here's what the problem that we're trying to solve. Because no one really cares about the problems I'm trying to solve.
And plus the safety issues. I mean, if you don't have the adequate light on the road because the trees are too dense, that's a problem. It needs to be fixed. The sidewalk, the trip hazards and things.
So, okay.
You can present it in the right way.
I can reach out different companies and see.
I like Bob's idea. I think you package.
Get an infrastructure package.
An infrastructure,
Okay.
renovation package or whatever.
And you can even include the amenities of the board.
Go up to 35,000, you said?
What do you think?
Do it
Sad
all.
about the trees, happy about the amenities.
Well, let me do this. You go up to 35,000, you said?
Well, for planning or study activity, but what we're talking about basically is doing a capital improvement plan and capital improvement revenue bonds using special assessment.
Right.
And for that, I think we may want to talk about also getting happening on board financial advisor, because we're going to have to do an offering memorandum and find out what the market is like. And I think that's part of the team member that always needs to be at the front of the game, with the engineer, with the managers, with the operations guys, as to what you really want to do. Then we need engineers reports, and here's what we're going to do. This is the project description.
You're gonna have a much easier job of selling a long-term bond to the people that would have to dig in their pocket, and they're only gonna live 3 more
Yeah,
years.
you pay 5% a year versus.
Yeah,
long-term-
they'd be willing to go
long-term
5
bond.
even on that.
Yeah.
A long-term bond with multiple enhancements.
And this is a great environment to do it.
You gotta give me-
You can say,
The
look,
interest rates can't be any better.
It
I
could be
don't
30
care
years.
about, I don't see why we need that.
They'll pay us the bar.
Well, your biggest problem is you gotta watch that the bond life doesn't go beyond the service life of what you're putting in.
Right.
So if you go down bond financing and something with a 20-year life,
Your
30 years,
roads are,
that dog ain't gonna hunt.
roads are 20 years. You've got 30 to 35 a year.
Yeah, I think you could get 20 years.
I'm gonna say 20 to 25. After 25, your life expectancy is done, but 20 years, you should get everything just like you do right now.
All right.
That's what I have.
Brian, thanks a lot. Yeah, anything else?
Yeah, you spend
That's
it.
enough.
But thanks, we appreciate it.
Turn it over to Kenny.
Good work.
He didn't ask about building a kitchen in the office yet.
Oh, I got one over there across.
Oh, I did see the bid for 10 grand for the gate.
Well, it's on you. That's the gate you requested.
I spoke too
Yeah.
soon, Brian.
To put a key code in the gate, as opposed to having to.
I told you, I warned you it was gonna be expensive.
9 grand
Well, you probably have $200 a month in maintenance costs.
for that.
Well, because people break arms, things break, and they're just problematic.
Like I said, if staff doesn't think it's that big of a deal, then I'm not pushing.
Okay.
Chris, can you send this to us? This spreadsheet?
Of this information?
Yeah.
Sure. And a lot of it was the same type things we brought up in the budget because Brian had 4 of those functional areas with the roads, streetlights and irrigation where he had 500,000 in as the first year of a 5-year plan on each one of those. And of course, we tightened the budget way up. Another thing we could look at is some of these dollars, whether it's borrowing or cash flow, look at what it would do, the assessment, and include that to the residents in the survey. Hey, your assessment would go up $4 a year for new streetlights. We can always pose that as part of this survey to help rank and see what the residents think of the value of these things.
And then I guess, Brian, the only thing that's missing here is the sidewalk, because before, I guess you said that was maybe needs to be updated with the sidewalk information that's on here. But you said you gave us more.
I can do that. I have a sidewalk spreadsheet and I have the top 4 for this year, which is the 150,000. Because I wouldn't want to exceed that. So I just kind of pretty much get what I have for the year. But we do have it ranked, what needs to be done and what has been completed. I can forward it to everybody.
Leslie, this little section on billing.
My priorities are primarily administrative. First, with the AMI system, we really wanted to see that the system could sustain a manageable level of non-reporting items. We also want to see what develops and what's determined from the final report and recommendation from the meter consultant. But we are wanting those numbers on non-reporting on MIUs and ETRs to go down. At this moment, I'm not seeing that trend. We do see a reduction in MIUs, but not in the ETRs. And I believe the meter consultant recommendations, Chris, is January.
Yep. Bring that to the board in January.
Second bid executive session.
We can't,
No?
there's no pending, no ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, there may be direction requested at that time. I'll have to report.
The next two areas are just administrative. I'd like to create formal policies that are documented regarding business practices. We have certain areas how staff should handle A to Z, from customer complaints through if there's any exceptions or write-offs, how those are handled. Particularly areas that are kind of iffy, like handling foreclosures and bankruptcy liens. So I hope to create a schedule where I can have that quarterly and have a policy reviewed from A to Z.
Is that something you'll need to create? You're going to create it on your own, or is it possible to tap into other utility companies that might be able to give you a baseline of what they have?
I contact, I survey out other local utilities and see what they're doing, and compare based on size.
Okay, good.
The other area is our Schedule C other fees, which we'll plan to review during the rate study. It's just making sure we kind of update some language that may need to be updated with regards to the other fees related to water, wastewater, irrigation. And then moving forward to our billing software. Currently, our billing software is meant for small utility under 3,000 accounts. So we're very limited on what options we can. We're at about 5,100 accounts, and we're limited on reporting, on what we can automate, mobile paperless work orders. So we just feel like we probably need to look in a direction on what could help us be more efficient. There's billing softwares that are now self-centered, so they actually take away certain workflows and they handle them on the back end. So that frees Vicki and I up for other resources. And those price range, depending if you just want utility billing, can range from 40 to 70,000. So it just depends on what we're looking for.
And is that to purchase the software outright, or is it there's an annual?
Just outright plus the additional annual fee.
Like your annual?
Like right now, we're currently paying $9,000 for annual maintenance. So it just vary on the type of software.
And how much, I think what I'd like to see, and I'm not holding you to this right now, but I'd like to see how much productivity time will be saved with some of these software, what additional benefits we'll gain, just dropping $60,000, $70,000 to be able to free up almost that equivalent in, labor cost, or to be able to have enhancements.
Right.
It's just a way for us to justify the cost benefit.
Right.
Do we currently have a auto pay feature? Where it can be
Yes.
directly debited from people's account, so you don't you save on stamps and all that
Right.
time.
We offer that now. Or in the direction of an enterprise type of billing system where it can incorporate other divisions of like utility operations, fixed asset management, accounting, where everything is built into one system.
So what you're saying is that there's two paths to go. One is just utility billing.
Correct.
And then there is another path, which is more extensive, which is an enterprise type system where utility is a component, but the other components could be leveraged.
Correct.
Yeah, I definitely would love to look to compare the contrast to that.
Does our center system impact which companies we would go with?
Not necessarily, because I think most billing softwares can script or write what's needed based on the AMI system. I just think we probably need to the current issues that we're having may impact the
That's what I
software.
was worried about.
That might be a good point to ask meters just to analyze it from that perspective too, when they do the report.
Yeah.
Add that to the analysis.
One of the key functions when people sign up for AMI or the automated meter reading system is typically that customer porthole that's available. And for three years, we've been hearing about the customer portal. Still isn't active, still under development. But if our customers had that type of portal, that would certainly save a lot of time from them calling us in and us generating reports and so on, sending it to them because they could just go in and see themselves. You know, or same thing, query questions, or if they had work orders. But right now, everything is on the phone or by email.
We're having to do a lot of the monitoring and everything's very manual. There's no reports that's generated. We have to extract the data, manipulate it, and spend time to monitor these issues that we have.
That was, I actually met Leslie last week, the week before, and I was asking him how much time she was spending dealing with that, and I was, there's not enough hours to use a year. I felt like you had a bed in the back, because 30 to 40% of her time
Yeah, a lot of my time
dedicated
is
just on that issue.
And not getting better.
Worse,
Worse.
by double digits.
So that's what I have for my priorities.
I'm waiting for someone to bring up the good part. Waiting for the good part. You know, the rosy, everything's working fine.
Yeah, I got too much money
Yeah.
to spend this money.
Kenny?
There he comes.
Kenny's gate valves are working. Is that good news?
Kenny Hall, utility manager. Before I really get going, I just wanted to bring you all, to let you all know that over the last 5 years, we have pretty much fundamentally changed our utility system. And we've done it all for the positive. This board has authorized millions of dollars in upgrades, innovations, and where we are sitting today is a direct result of that. And what you're seeing in front of you is where I'm going with this is the employees. We need the employees to train the employees to bring them up to speed. And just to train an employee, you're looking at a year. To get them fully evolved, we're looking at 3 years if we take them as a trainee and move them up through our system. Say, I always point to Isaac Curlow, it's taken 3 years, 3.5 years to get him from nothing, not knowing anything about a public utility system, to fully functional, can handle anything that we throw at him at 2 o'clock in the morning. And where we've gone is we've added the equipment. We've virtually changed from A to Z our emergency operations plans, how we deal with emergencies, what we plan on, what we practice, what we train for. Vehicles, we went from a surplus of vehicles to not having enough vehicles. And what this $60,000 represents is to me, I was looking at in buying a used vehicle, and with 60,000 buying 2 used vehicles. And what that will bring us is with our trailer and our excavator, we could get ourselves into a situation where if that vehicle is down, we have no vehicle to move.
We had it happen. We've had it happen.
Not on an emergency.
That's why I was wondering when you put that in there, because we were talking about a month ago, that's how you brought it up, of the need for about 28,000 to get you guys talk those trucks, I don't know trucks, 350?
350.
A 350 with a hitch that doesn't have all the arm jacks and all that.
We need 14,000 pounds of towing capacity.
Yeah, so, and the number I heard was around 28,000. But I didn't know what these 2 columns meant. Was that a timeline, or why is there one in B and one in C? And it's staggered. What does that mean?
The 36
The 36 is staff.
I'm sorry.
Staff.
36,000 for a headcount staff.
Like 36, why this column, why not the 36 out here? Are these years, months? What do these columns mean?
The 2 independent things, one's people, one's a.
No, it's on the
What I'm
fund.
saying is
Yeah,
the 60
301.
should be on
Why
column
isn't the 60 under the 36?
should be on column B instead of C.
Yeah, oh, that's.
I thought it was tiny.
No, well, why is the 60,000 in 301, the 60,000 belongs in 301, that would capital new investment?
Oh, those are account numbers,
Sure.
not years.
Oh, no. No. But
The one thing is we need that truck back.
And so for 60, you're saying you,
we could possibly get two. We could go into like a government auction and buy a used vehicle for half of that price, and then the excess buy another vehicle.
I don't know.
I don't know
the liability of, I know that some of these auctions is where a lot of people go and get good quality vehicles, but I don't.
It's a roll of the
What
dice.
would the lease price be? Be a lot cheaper initially. Then you have new equipment every X number of years, 4 years.
What do you say, lease?
Yeah, lease them. That way you don't have any capital expense in that.
And then you're bound by resale value. Okay.
Not if you lease it, it goes back to the leasing. You lease it for 5 years, and then you get a new one.
Heavy trucks are different than leasing.
That's what I was wondering, if there's a.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that. That's what-
We are definitely going to need a vehicle that can tow our equipment. And then on the other side of that, if the crane truck goes down and we have an emergency at the lift station, we have that covered, where we could move in a bypass pump, and by the time before we get our crane back, for it to be
Having all this equipment doesn't mean a thing if you can't get it where you need to get it.
One thing, I don't know if you looked at a municipal lease arrangement where you have these companies that will fund it, and at the end of the payments, you own it, you have title to it. So it's a lease, it's a municipal lease, and the interest
Lease
on
fund.
the loan is tax exempt to the lender. So
Lease purchase.
Municipal lease arrangement.
And it would be strictly for utility usage, where we would buy the reading package, where with the cabinets and all the other things that go along with it, a diesel to go along with our other equipment. I see that as we keep going forward, that is going to be an essential piece that we really are in need of. And then with adding extra employees to us, we have gotten to the point where, when I talked to Mr. Gephardt and Flavia, when they came in, I pointed out to what the Gateway Greens project and the Pelican Preserve project did to our staff, how it just completely taxed us to the point where we were no longer in a maintenance point of attack, I would say. We were constantly we were prone to reacting to everything.
Whack-a-mole.
Yes, and it was constant, and it went on for weeks, and it's probably going to kick back up again. And I use that as an example. And then as with our employees, we give vacation time. And when we lose one employee, it traces over to the other employees, where if we get into emergency situations, on-call situations, weekend situations, where we need staff in here and they've worked a full week. We did 9 repairs in 1 week. Digging through oak trees, this just beats your staff down. And we are to the point where, with what we have, and we want to keep going forward and bringing more and more in-house and improving our capabilities, we are going to need more staff to do this. And then
Well, the numbers you showed, Kenny, I mean, elimination of overtime pay more than pays with this new.
yes, say we have one employee that had $15,000 in income in just overtime this year.
That's only one.
One employee, 15,000. It dropped from 15,000. The next nearest employee, who is at $9,850. Every member of our staff had over $4,000 extra in overtime.
So let me just play devil's advocate. You remove that overtime, does it put any of those employees at risk for leaving? Do they depend on that overtime?
I don't think we'll ever get rid of overtime. I think we will be able to disperse it much more evenly, where we don't have, and I wanted to point out that, you say, the employee that did have 15,000, is his response is, I'm the only one that would do it. So
No, there's the guys that want it and take it,
Right.
it doesn't matter what it is, and there's others that will take it, they'll bitch about it,
Mhm.
and other people just don't want it. So, I mean, you know my position on this. I think you gotta have staff, you gotta have the right people, you gotta plan for attrition. Especially in utilities and probably in public works, you gotta be 30% over what you need at all times. So if you lose a body, it's not gonna cripple you. And we're in the utility business where, you know, it's just like if a pipe goes down or something goes down, if we don't have the people to fix it, we might as well just, you know, not have the pipe altogether, you know? So I think you got, and you gotta have the equipment. So these are two areas where I would not think twice about cutting spending in other areas if it really came down to, you know, where we need to spend the money. I think getting the right people, train them, people that not only have the skill set, but are coachable, that aren't afraid to roll their sleeves up and put in the work, but also that people that kind of fit the type of culture and characters that we're trying to build here. So, trying to build characters. Build characters.
And our utility staff, they all know each other's job. They wear multiple hats. They have to have a certain amount of expertise in every area. Safety is my number one priority, and as I've told, and I'll tell anybody that our utility staff, I mean, this job will snap the life right out of you, and you do not even have to work at it. So if you get in yourselves into situations, safety becomes an absolute priority, and it is. I just drill it into their heads that it doesn't take anything. Along the roads, any type of situation. So our utility people have to. It takes time to develop them, to train them, to get them licensed, and then be able to turn them loose and be able to deal with what we have to deal with.
And you've had a lot of success, Kenny, bringing people in at a certain level and coaching them up and training them and progressing them through. I think you've been very successful at that.
Where's some of your other stuff?
Well, like I say, where I was going with all of this is that the employees are my number one priority. And if we have gotten to the point where with our emergency, our bypass pumps, our irrigation system is right now in the middle of a major enhancement. It's not fully developed. Until I get that online operational and know what we've got, I don't planning on that until that comes to fruition.
What I'm looking for that is critical is valve replacement.
That's already underway. I mean, we're halfway through where we're at, and it's already been budgeted for 20 and for 21.
But does that solve a problem?
It's part of our problem, yes.
I'm trying to get it solved.
Oh, we're definitely working on it.
We need.
Two meetings ago, my utility manager report, I told the board that we will be switching from the potable side to I need to get on the sewer side and get that squared away. And that's about where we're at.
Our issue is that we can't do anything around here and isolate it without taking a whole bunch of people out because the valves don't work.
Right.
And we've got, I think, in my opinion, we need to take and have a map with 3 sets of priorities, critical valves that just have to be done.
And that's what we're working.
Then subcritical valves, and then ones that would be nice to have.
Yes.
But those first two, we've got to get done.
Yes.
And there are a lot.
That should be part of the infrastructure plan we put together.
And the other thing that we ran into is if we thought it was going to cost X to replace a valve, it turns out it always costs 2X.
Right.
So that's been a very expensive proposition.
And I say I was on the phone today with the tapping, and we're starting to schedule the on the sewer side of things and how we're going to plot this out in coordination with the roundabout and that. Say that's funded all the way, and we carried over from 20 into 21. So we've got a real good chunk of change there to work with, and we've got our valve machine now. And there again, I have a great valve machine, and then the staff use it.
Works on all those broken valves we got. Do we have a map where we show, let's say by color coding or something that shows the high priority valves at major intersections that are operable or that need to be replaced, and then the sub deals? In other words, do we have a map that it identifies all these valves we need, that we can put a dollar value per valve and say, hey, we've got 50 valves that have to be done. It's going to cost us $10,000, $12,000 each. We have that.
I use the GIS system when I bring up the areas that we look at. We go out and test them. We start pressure testing, figuring out which ones we need to.
So how many critical valves do we have yet to replace? First question.
I would say upwards of 55 to 60.
55 to 60, and where's the money to pay for those?
It would be in the capital program as we go forward past 21.
Is it now?
we've already funded for now. We're funded now.
Well, my question is that 50 to 55 is the money to do those? Have we got that identified right now, or is that yet to be?
That will be developed as we go forward with it on the CIP. So there's 22 through 27. That's where we're going with that one. And say, emergency operations again is another one. And then I wrote down my priorities on the side and reevaluating the CIP. Because we've so fundamentally changed everything that when Chris was the utility manager for his first year and then my 4 years, everything we set out to do, we've done. We've accomplished as far as the lift stations, the bypass pumps, we've changed out. At one time, we had 6 different submersible sewage pumps in our system, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Now we've got it down to 2. All the ones that rolled, we've replaced, and the new ones that have already on our new stations, we let them run out and then we'll replace them with the same. So we have 1 pump, 1 vendor, 1 place. All of that has changed. We've developed an inventory plan. We've developed our staffing plan on where we want to go with everything. So we're right where we need to be. And then my biggest priority is the irrigation system. There again, I'm stalled with this program because of COVID. Till we get that gear in, we've got a 1/31/21 is our date for when we get that piece of equipment. We get it in, we get it on, we get it installed in-house by our electrician. And then we put our SCADA system in it, and then we will have 5 pumps, which gets us back to 10,000 gallons per minute. And then we will know exactly where we go, and we can start developing more off of that. But till we get that going, it's all just a wish list, basically, until I know exactly where we're at.
I mean, I don't think this board, or since as long as I've been on, I don't know if we've not approved any items that's come through utilities, because one, it's been presented very well, and I would just, I'd augment your opening statement to say the board has funded the transformational vision that you and Chris and staff have put together. So we've just been writing checks. You guys have had the vision and the execution to transform our utilities. And I think, again, huge kudos and applause to you. And now it's a matter of continuing to maintain, and you've got, having the staff and the equipment to keep things running. And I do want to ask, in that relationship, we're buying a lot of equipment. At what point do we need to consider how we store that equipment? Right now, we just keep everything over here. Do we need to look at, some type of storage facility, or, even if it's not
Under pole barn, so.
yeah, even if it's not fully enclosed, something that.
Anything that's not climate controlled is in those shipping containers right now. All of our brass, valves, anything that does not require climate control. Anything as far as a lift station, electronics is all.
All I'm saying is, we can buy equipment all day long.
It would be good to have it under roof.
If we could have something under roof, and if that's going to cost, $100,000 to build structure, where it's going to keep things out of weather, prolong the life of that piece of equipment for a certain amount of time, or even just provide, I don't know.
They're advertising those 40 by 60 enclosures that they're dirt cheap.
Yeah.
40 by 60.
So I guess that's something I would look at too, as we're enhancing this building and this side property over here, structuring that so you've got organization in utilities, you've got structures where you need it. I don't think this board would have any problem with.
I hate
granting you dollars to.
I hate seeing those generators sitting outside.
Yeah, I do too.
But Kenny, if you could take advantage of the GIS system that we currently have, and maybe on there, you know where all these valves are, red, yellow, green. Red's got to be replaced immediately, yellow's in danger. Just a graphical representation, so we see the population of valves.
And you see them change every time.
And then see it, and then watch it change every time, exactly.
And the new valve machine also has a GPS on it, so when you're working on a valve, it gives you that
Great
coordinate.
location.
You should be able to look on our GIS.
But you put the, that's right,
And
you
there
look
it
at the
is.
irrigation layer, you can see where you are there. You look at the valve replacement layer, the sewer, whatever the item is.
I do agree with Bob, and I think you were probably the one help, maybe even 10 years ago, even started talking about GIS and how we needed to, we were part of the water advisory committee with Bill Morris way back then, but I think that the GIS needs to make sure that that's a high priority, because that should be our go-to for just about everything we do,
Well, right now it's focused for staff and for the board, whereas Pelican's got beyond that to the citizens. So we may get there eventually, and
Yeah, and I mean.
But I think it's a great tool.
And again, I applaud staff for building that capability in-house.
Yep.
But again, to see how all the tools he needs to see our capacity to do everything that we need to do, should we look at bringing in an intern under him?
Well, what I had.
Carrying the same thing that he was doing before.
Yeah, I'm digressing a little bit, but I was talking to Chris earlier, because I was gonna go over to Passarella with him. And just to see what we've got and compare that to what he's got, to see what the path forward might be in the future. But they're two different focuses, right? Because again, Passarella's for the citizen, whereas what Chris has been doing here is for internal.
Yeah.
And I'll mention one constraint we have in utilities, it's across the whole industry, is in the next 5 to 7 years, you'll have 50% of the licensed operators retiring in this country. They don't have people coming up behind them. So to hire a licensed operator is very difficult, if not impossible, in the larger utilities like Orlando Regional Utilities Commission and Pinellas County and others are just hiring new folks and training them up to the ladder. The people that are skilled and have the licenses are close to retiring and they're not really moving.
And just to throw this one out there, we kind of threw out feelers to see a trainee position, to see what we would get. And within 3 days, 4 former employees inquired about coming back and working for us again.
That's great.
Yes. No, they won't come back, but they did try, inquire into, can we come back? And no, you can't.
Oh, you didn't want? Oh, I thought maybe.
That for a reason. That just to have that.
I thought the opposite. I thought it was a great place to work. They realized
one person has left and we've brought one person back and he's
They
paid
thought
off.
it was, that's why they wanted to come back.
Yeah, they saw what it was and now they all.
I think in closing, I talked about this with staff, when I had just an intro meeting with them, is there has to be a reason why people want to work. And people decide to work places, either compensation, so they're getting paid either at fair or above. They've got good benefits, or it's a great place to work. And those are 3 things we need to hit on. And if we can't hit on all 3, we at least need to be able to hit on at least 1 or 2, or else we're going to have turnover.
Yeah, you don't want to be training people to watch them leave.
Right. And because you're investing in them. So we're going to
That's
do
real
this.
brilliant. That was real brilliant. Train them to leave.
Yeah. And even with COVID and layoffs and everything, there's still a war for talent that's going on. And we're still gonna have to pay people. So I think Kenny said in your area, you do pay well, and that's an attractive thing.
And that's what
Make
gets
sure that's a standard that we do across the board. Benefits, I think we've gone back and forth on benefits over the years. A couple years ago, I think we might have been above average. Now we might be average, but we've got to figure out where it's more cost effective for us to enhance benefits or increase our compensation. We have to do, it's a numbers game.
Got to be analyzed all the time.
And then ultimately, and this is what, I think I kind of challenge Chris and Brian and Kenny and all the leaders to build the culture that we want. We want to be an employer of choice. We want people to want to be able to work here, enjoy it.
Be happy while you work.
Be happy with it. And look, it's utilities, and look, it's a tough job at times, but
well, this business is really tough when you don't have the equipment to do your job. It's ridiculous.
And on their initial interviews, I paint the worst picture possible. I give them everything. This is where you're going to be at 3 a.m, and this is what's going to happen. And that seems to really
Being there at 3 a.m. is bad, but being there at 3 a.m. and not having the equipment you need to do the job, that doesn't get it.
Shoveling in a cemetery sewer.
Yeah.
thanks, Kenny. Anything else?
I did train people to quit. I worked for Jim in Mexico. And we started schools, we trained people as soon as they got their education. That's something we are.
Chris, what else do we have?
Well,
We're getting close. We're way over.
Okay, well,
We've got 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I got about 6.
I'll take,
Marcus, we only be halfway through this.
these are just a couple things I brought on, and it adds stormwater utility to it, but it's really looking at evaluation of our projects, full life cycle costs, not only, hey, we want to do this, and we're paying an engineer to design it, what it's going to cost to build it, and what it's going to cost to maintain it, and how that's going to impact the assessment. What's the bottom line price? Because that's what everybody looks at. How does it affect my assessment? We'll be looking at this argument, debt versus cash flow, SRF versus commercial paper. You'll get a head full of that from Stephen Bloom at the meeting Thursday, and also on January 21st, we have a rate consultant come in because we'll be looking at this same thing, SRF versus commercial paper for utility type projects. We also have to start looking at debt load with some of the borrowing that's been going on with the lake bank. Today we're working on establishing board priorities. That's
What do you mean debt load?
just how much debt for the organization, how much we can pay back. You know, right now we've got $8 million outstanding in debt. We could add.
I wasn't aware there was a rule of thumb.
Well, I'm sure there's a rule
There's a
somewhere.
risk ratio. You want to carry.
Let me tell you a story about that. Back in the 60s and the 70s, when a little organization called EPA came along, they went to these towns and said, you're going to put in a wastewater treatment plant, but we can't afford it. That's not on the conversation. You will do it. And that's where we're at. We're in a business that you have to do it, simply because you're providing service to people. Unless you want to go out there and tell them, go build an outhouse. I mean, we don't have any choice. But the issue is, I've never heard the term debt burden on a utility. Now, it's a number that you might have, but I don't think there is a limiting factor in it. Because South Florida Water Management District is going to come out on the stormwater and say, don't tell me your problems.
And no doubt. Another one I had is establish a data-driven organization. We're really looking at that, you know, starting with the GIS and moving the asset management into that GIS and drive our decisions with data, you know, present that to the decision makers and the board when we're here.
And I think it's usually on the utility side too. I mean, this, just some of the data that you guys have been able to generate except the last 2 years from where we were 2 years prior. I mean, that's great, but you have to be able to action that data, right? So.
Oh, we do, and we have to action it, and we develop a lot of it for the regulatory agency, so it just helps when you're trying to do some business analysis with it, because you have to have all those numbers. Have to establish a plan B for the water meters. Metersys is doing an evaluation right now. Whether this thing's going to work out good or go south, it's incumbent on us to have a plan B. No doubt about it.
It's smart, but I hate having that conversation, but it's a smart thing.
Yep, go back up, have established a board reserve policy, mandatory contributions, and that's almost looking at an asset management study. And bottom line too is improve communications. That's across the board, using social media, using our Facebook, and also some ideas the chairman talked about, having a council of HOA presidents and meeting regularly with those groups and getting some input, making more use of SurveyMonkey. And the bottom line with us and the staff is what we try to do and what we think our mission is to preserve property values. And the way we do that is by operating and maintaining and taking care of expensive infrastructure. And you're right, Mr. Tinkle, we don't have a choice.
Chris, what I like to see is, and you've done it before, only I'd like to see it in a little bit more detail, is I'd like to take our water, our wastewater, and our reuse and compare that with our maybe 3 or 4 closest communities in price. And if you were to talk about a debt load or a cost factor,
sure,
is take the difference between what our people are paying and what they're paying, and then convert that into so much borrowing. Now, that will tell me what the market tells you is your debt burden.
Oh, sure.
So if we have $15 a month per employee, or per resident, times so many months, you can take that and equate that to a principal and interest payment on $2 million, $5 million, $10 million worth of debt.
Sure.
Now, that number is significant to me.
And we'll bring that number up because we'll look at the rate comparison with our suggested rates in January when the consultant comes in, because we are under earning on the water, and there's some areas that we want to programs pay for, and the principal and interest for the 3 SRF projects that are under consideration. But we're going to bring it universally and look at the whole picture. But we'll have those rate comparisons, and we'll add that debt comparison.
Because when you look at those rate comparisons, we are really in good financial condition compared to the utilities. But it's because we haven't progressed yet to the position where they were of spending the money they needed to spend for the last 15 years that we didn't. That's the big difference. But
Well,
we're getting there.
so this has been very informative, and it's always, I think we should regularly circle back and talk about priorities. The one big takeaway that I feel came out of this is a desire to continue to have an ongoing capital improvement plan and what I consider major maintenance plan. So we should be looking 5 years out all the time. I do really like the idea of maybe structuring a large scale project, and whether it's, it's built off that 5-year, 10-year plan, whether we call it a Gateway Next project or whatever, but it'll encompass everything that we feel like that we need to get done. That's a high priority one that needs to be done in the next couple of years. We're going to finance it over X amount of time. That's what I'd like for maybe Laura to kind of help draft that work with all the department heads to build a project outline of what all those components are, which is really the things that we've addressed today.
Can we start getting the, maybe a couple of names of firms to do the capital reserve study? Not for utility organizations. Now, capital reserve study I've got going on in my community right now, I wouldn't want him to touch this with a 10-foot pole because he doesn't understand utilities. But there are firms that do utilities. It'd be nice to have 2 or 3 of them come in, give us an idea of the order of magnitude of what a capital reserve study is going to cost us across the board. Our utilities, I think we can give them now. I feel very confident that we can get them accurate information on our assets.
Sure.
But on our in-house stuff, like the trucks and all the other things that April gave me that one time, I got to pull my hair out and I said, that's way above my pay grade. I'm not getting it at all. But it's something that they do. Be interesting to see what a company that's versed in this would cost us to put together a capital reserve study. And then Tony, another issue on that is in our HOAs by statute, we have to do those for 30 years. And you cannot have red ink on any year of that 30 years. I mean, that's a no-no. Is there a similar deal for utilities?
Districts are not required to have a capital reserve study, so I think you can craft it however you think is appropriate. It's also good to have at least a facilities report update.
Well, we're doing ours every 5 years, and we've had growth, so it's going to change and probably change dramatically. But here, I didn't even think of the one that I did on the utilities, and what I came up with the valuation of our utilities back then. I wouldn't be a bit surprised that it's gone up 15-20%. Easily.
And for some reason, I want to think that the Servo did one.
Well,
Joe did one.
I think there was a utility system way back when the county wanted to acquire it. Remember the whole issue about?
Oh, yeah, sale price.
The district could put the collection system and everything to the county. The county came up with this number. And
that was a fire sale.
Well, after they backed out a whole bunch of other numbers, it goes to 5%.
Joe.
Well, all right. Well, do we have anything else?
I think that's it.
Thanks, staff.
Staff, that's a good job.
Okay.
So I don't know if
You won the award though, Brian, for bringing the bank. Well, yours is the site though that's been like that.
Workshop. Close it and adjourn the workshop.
I should close and adjourn the workshop at 5:50.
Can we have